this session. So a little bit about what you're going to experience today and in through this training. So the first thing to note is that our training today is going to use multiple Zoom rooms. We are going to be in this Zoom room for the vast majority of the day. So this space, when we refer to it throughout the agenda, we'll call it the main session. So whenever we talk about the main session, we're talking about this Zoom link of where you are right now. You can find all the session links. We emailed them out through Involved It to You. Amelia, if you want to, you can also drop the link for the Involved It to You event in the chat when you get a chance. Essentially, that has all the links of the breakout sessions, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but just don't be confused when we say like there is going to be potentially a little bit of moving around that you'll do throughout the day. If you're having trouble or any sort of technical difficulties, Kelly, who just introduced herself before, please directly private message her. So if like a member of your club can't get onto the Zoom or you're having trouble getting to a breakout session, Kelly is our tech support. So just feel free to send her a message and she'll do her best to help you out if you have a problem. While the session's going on, I'll admit you guys are doing a fantastic job since we've started. If you're, we ask that people keep themselves muted. Just there's 208 people on this call right now, just to limit the background noise so that everybody can hear. If somebody accidentally has themselves unmuted, Kelly or Amelia will probably just go in and mute you. Just don't take it personally, but we want to make sure the presenters can be heard. We do invite you to keep your camera and be engaged throughout the event. While I'm presenting, I can't actually see everybody because I got like 5 names on the side of my screen. But it is nice for us to kind of get some, especially for Amelia, who's new, some names with some faces. So if we see you around campus, you'll know us more than, or we may recognize you a little bit more than just the name that we've been getting back and forth through email. I mentioned this, but we will record all the sessions so that you'll have access to them later on. So that is supposed to be a resource for you after today, and also depending on your learning style. So some people learn differently. So depending on what you want to do, if you'd like to take notes, feel free to take notes, but I will make sure that you get access to both the video recordings and we will collect all the PowerPoints from the various presenters and make those available to you as well. So, there is going to be a lot of information on some of the slides. That's intentional so that you will have that as a resource for you after this summit. And then lastly, if you haven't noticed, like we ask people to put things in the chat as we're kind of talking, feel free to be active in chat. If you have questions, I will do my best to respond to them when I can in real time, if it makes sense. If not, Kelly will be answering a lot of questions or maybe some other student activity staff members. At the very end of today's summit, we will have time for, if you have especially specific questions for your organization, we have time and a little thing built in where we will offer specific guidance for you. So if you got something, write it down, hold it to the end, and we can make sure we help you when we're doing the closeout. All right. And with that, I want to introduce one more person who's a special guest today, who has been honestly a big supporter of the student organization community and the Student Group Leadership Summit at large. Her name is Dr. Patricia Bradley, who's the Vice President of OIIE. Dr. Bradley, if you want to offer some words of welcome to our students, feel free to take over.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope we're planning a big snowball fight on Sunday or Monday for those of you who are already back on campus. So have fun with it, enjoy it, enjoy the semester. I appreciate all of you as student leaders. Just wanted to really take the opportunity to introduce myself so that you could see who I am and share with you a few of the resources that we have on campus that are here for you. We're not assigned to student affairs, but we are certainly student facing. So my office is the Office of Inclusion and Institutional Equity, and I have 3 departments. One department that you all will work, well, 2 departments actually that you work a lot with. Are there in the union with you, and that's ADS, Accessibility and Disability Services, and the Center for Student Diversity. As student leaders for student programs, one thing that I want you to keep in mind as you are scheduling your programs, remember that we have sub-students with various disabilities. If we have students that are going to attend any of your programming that have hearing impairments, you may want to take into consideration the fact that you might want to have an ASL interpreter there for some of your programs. What many of you may not know is that over 10% of our student population is registered with ADS. And so with that in mind, we just want to make sure that we're making sure that all of our programming is accessible to them, and that they feel welcomed to participate. The Center for Student Diversity, that is also in the union. We have several coordinators in the union that work with the Center for Student Diversity. So any of your individual organizations that want to do programming, we love to collaborate. So please reach out to Dr. Kiwana Perryman for collaboration. And then we have our Inclusive Excellence Education team. Many of you have already met Brian Hara. He's the director of that team. If you want to have individual training for any of your groups, please reach out to Brian. We are offering some pretty interesting training coming up this semester. Some of it is virtual training. It's called Perspective, and it's centered around dialogue and having difficult conversations. We also have the hate bias coordinator who's assigned to that unit. So if you have incidents where students may feel that, things have been said that weren't appropriate in any setting, in any of your programming, in any of your student org meetings, offensive things, things that harm one another, and you want to kind of address it early on before it rises to the level of something that's going to go to student conduct, and you want someone from my team to come in to talk about the impact of hate and bias, and that, words do hurt, even though they may not rise to the level of a policy violation. Words do hurt, and we want to be mindful of the things that we're saying to each other and how we're treating each other. So that's just a few of the resources that our office offers. We offer you support. I love to attend events. So if there's an event that you want to make sure that you have some staff participation and visibility, feel free to invite me. I will be the VP that will definitely show up and be there for you. So thank you again, Chris, for inviting me. I always like talking to students. Please make sure you take down my telephone number if you all have any questions about any of the resources that we offer. I am at 410-704-0203.
Thank you, Dr. Bradley.
All right,
If we can
thank
get
you.
some claps or clapping emojis into the chat, or in like real life. I love that. Jazz hands I see out there. Thank you guys. Dr. Riley, thanks for being here. And one other
Yeah.
final like plug. So Brian Hara and Dr. Stephen Willems are actually doing a joint breakout session. So some of the things that Dr. Bradley talked about regarding accessibility, there's an option for training on that later in this session. So if that spoke to you and something you want to learn more about, you will have an option for that later. Thanks for being here, Dr. Bradley.
All right, you're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Let me pull the chat back up. Thank you for being welcoming for our guest speaker. We really appreciate that. All right, so let's hop into what are we going to do today. So let's start with the agenda. So from roughly now until 2:20, so we have a little bit over an hour. I'm going to go over some important stuff we started last semester with some student org policies that changed starting in the fall. And then we're going to go over this thing called the Student Org Top 10, which is really like the 10 key things that affect the vast majority of student organizations that you really need to be aware of. So that'll be like the bulk of your immediate training. At 2:20 to 3 o'clock, we will have the treasurer workshop in this space. So for that, if you are a graduate group, Kelly is going to offer a breakout session specifically for you. So when we get there, you don't need a separate Zoom link. I'm just going to have you put your name in the chat and I will move you there. We'll have a break from 3 to 3:10. And then last part of it is where you get to pick your own adventure from 3:10 to 4 o'clock. You will get to pick a breakout session that you can attend. At 4 o'clock, if you went to a different breakout session, because those will be in separate Zoom rooms, we ask you come back to this space where we'll have the closing and the assessment, which is the sign out for the day. So please make sure at the very end at 4 o'clock, you're all back in this space. These are the breakout sessions. I'm not going to go over them in detail, but just so you know, in the Involved at TU, I sent it out in the agenda link that you probably got to get to this session. So it was in that Word document, but it is also on the Involved at TU page that Amelia posted earlier right here. Or if you just Google on or go to Involved at TU, look under events, you'll find the summit. All the information for the breakouts are there, okay? But at this point, you'll get to pick what session you want to learn more about. So read the descriptions and pick one that will be helpful or beneficial to you. If you are here with multiple members of your organization, first off, shout out to you all for getting your executive boards on board. That is a great way to get a good start for the semester to make sure that you're going to start off strong and with people knowing what they need to do as student org leaders. But secondly, when you get to this point, don't go to the same breakout session. Make a plan, PM each other, divide up so you get different information to bring back and share with each other, okay? All right, so I want to start with the new student org policy and procedures, and this is really going to be a review for last semester. So I know for all those are people that put number one in the chat, you will not know this information. I say most likely because depending if your other officers told you about it last semester, maybe you will. So we're going to do a review, and I have hopefully a fun way for you guys to see what you remember. But then we're going to talk about some of what we observed throughout the semester. So starting with like what is this new org policy stuff? So first off, back in fall 2025, when we had this student group leadership summit back in August, we introduced a number of new changes that were a result of an audit that we talked at length about that was undergone by our office and the Student Government Association by the state of Maryland. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but essentially that is why these changes that we're going to talk about today, they took place. We rolled out these changes throughout the fall, and then really we were developing different systems and structures to help support you in making sure you're able to meet these new requirements. We collected feedback from student leaders at the town hall, and I'm planning to share with you today some of what student leaders told us about these new requirements and how they were doing with them. Our team, that team I mentioned, student org, specifically our student organization ambassadors, work to develop some new resources for you. So I'm going to share some of the things that are going to hopefully help you going into this semester. And then talking about reintroduction and training for new officers. So part of what today is going to really be about is hopefully helping you have this information so you know it down pat, and then taking it back to the rest of your officers and sharing it with them so that they can understand and help you in accomplishing these requirements. I'm going to share information specific from the town hall that will hopefully help you understand better why I think this is an area you guys can improve on and how some of your officers would be interested to know this information. But I thought to kick this off, why don't we start with a quiz? So, first off, I want to mention if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can do your best and try to guess at the quiz. I'm going to tell you the answers in just a second, but I'm going to launch a quiz. So give me a second here. And it should show up on your screen in just a second. And the question is, one of the new requirements that we stated back in the fall semester was that all or student organizations were required to have two specific officer positions. Which positions were they? Okay. I'll give you about another 5 seconds to get your votes in. Take your best guess if you don't know. I should mention this also. You're going to be scoring your own quiz. So remember if you got it right or wrong, okay? Hey, maybe I should say this. Please don't put your answers in the chat. Please answer on the quiz because I'm going to show you the results right now. And the results are, looks like 95% of you said president and 91% of you said treasurer, with a few vice president and secretaries thrown in there. Congratulations to those that said president and treasurer. That is the correct answer. So yes. So the required positions that we have for student organizations this year, I say this year, that we introduced for this year that all groups must have is a president and a treasurer. I'm going to stop sharing that. And here's the answer. The things that we noted about president and the treasurer is that they cannot be the same person. That was one of the big clear distinctions. So you can't be like, I'm the president and the treasurer. They have to be two separate people, and they have to be marked appropriately on your roster on Involved at TU. And this was one of the key points is that we really focused on at the beginning of last fall, is making sure every group had both a president and a treasurer, and they were not the same people. And the reason for this is really because of some of the stuff related to the audit, that we needed more of our student leaders to understand the financial requirements of student organizations and how to access and manage their money. So by having two separate people being trained on that, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, by having those two individuals required to go through training, that was going to help us make sure that we were meeting the financial obligations we needed our groups to be knowledgeable about. Some people asked this in last semester as we were talking about it was, we don't really need a treasurer. We don't really do anything with money, but So what do we really need to have it? The short answer is yes, but if you don't want to have a treasurer specifically, it can be like a vice president slash treasurer where they still have to do all the roles and stuff for the requirements for training purposes and have the information. But you don't have to specifically put somebody into a treasurer role and say, we don't need you to do anything except go to the training. So if you want to tack it on to another officer position, it's fine as long as it's not the president position. So last semester, we said this was a requirement and we gave a deadline of October 1st. And as a shout out to you all, by the October 1st deadline, we had all but three student organizations have that completed that properly. So shout out to you all. You guys did a great job on that. Of those three groups that didn't complete it, two of them were missing multiple things. So we were under the assumption they really likely weren't active groups anyway. So this was one of the requirements that you guys as student organization leaders really did well. But one of the things to note is like if your officers change throughout the semester, making sure that these tags are assigned to the correct individuals so they're getting proper information throughout the year, which leads into the financial training. So we said that student organizations, so by having president and treasurers, part of this was so that they could be trained. So last fall, we introduced a new student organizational financial training. There was over 12 different sessions that were held for officers to get this training. The key thing that we want people to know, especially for those that put twos, this is a requirement once per academic year. So that means if your president and your treasurer completed the training in the fall, you do not need to recomplete the student organization financial training this semester. The training itself is a 1 hour training. It is in person. There's multiple date options led by SJ Finance staff. I will share the dates that are coming up for this semester in the next slide. And then other officers are welcome. So if let's say your secretary or vice president, they're like, hey, I just want to know this information because I want to understand how budgeting and accessing our student organization funds works. Maybe they are thinking about, applying for one of those positions or being a president in the future. They're welcome to attend. Or if you attended last semester and you just want to know the information, get a refresher, you're also welcome to reattend. But it is a requirement that if you did not do the training last semester and you are a president or treasurer, you must attend the new sessions that are happening this semester. Okay. So what organizations would need to actually attend? First, if you were a new student organization that started in the fall semester, so if you registered as a club, you didn't attend these trainings at the beginning of the semester because you registered after that, you need to make sure that you get to the financial trainings, president and treasurer. If your president or treasurer graduated at the end of last semester, or let's say they just left their position, like, hey, I'm not going to have time next semester. I'm doing an internship. Somebody else is going to have to take on the treasurer role, for instance. You would want to make sure whoever that new treasurer is attending the financial training so they know what they're doing. And the last thing would be most likely scenario would be if your organization had any sort of end of the semester elections and you have a new board going into this semester, you really want to make sure all of the new officers, well, the president and treasurer, they would be required to attend this financial training. The last caveat about the financial training is this is not the same thing as the treasurer's workshop. So I want to emphasize that. The treasurer's workshop that you guys are going to experience today is about how to request funding from the Student Government Association, specifically as a part of the budgeting process for next semester. So if you wanted to receive a spring budget, this financial training is how to access your money. So how do you make purchases? If you need to get something as a student organization, how do you do it? So the student org financial training, this would be the requirement that does need to be happen for all presidents and treasurers that didn't do it in the fall. These are the dates of the financial trainings for this semester. So there was one this morning. So if you managed to go to that one, shout out to you for being on campus super early. I do want to make a note about the first one that's listed here. So it's Wednesday, January 28th. So that is the day after this giant snowstorm, and we're supposed to be returning to campus. I don't know. It could potentially be that Towson closes an extra day. If that happens, I'll talk to the SJ Finance individuals. This one may get rescheduled for a different day on a different week. But even if it doesn't, if you're planning to go to that one, make sure you have it on your calendar because you're not going to get a lot of reminders leading up to it since Towson's closed Monday, Tuesday, and people might not be checking their emails as vigorously during those times. But essentially, these are the 4 dates that are happening. All of these can be found on Involved at TU, and all the trainings are happening in University Union 224. At the town hall, I wanted to share this specific thing because I thought this was very interesting. So this mentions that training sessions for spring 2026 will be required for all new president treasurers. Would it be helpful for everyone to be open to everyone as a refresher? And you can see two people said, yes, I would like to go again. Two of the people said, no, I feel confident what I learned this semester. But the bulk of the people said, I didn't attend in the fall, but I would like to learn this information. So this led me to believe there's a potentially a number of officers in your organizations that don't know about this training. So if you don't tell them about the opportunity to learn this stuff, they may be missing out. So I would say if there's individuals in your club that want to get this information, be sure to share these dates with them. It doesn't, like I said, the president and treasurer are required if they haven't done it, but it doesn't hurt to have more officers of your organization trained. And then three people just said, no, I don't feel like it's relevant to what they do, which is totally fair. Okay, let's start quiz number 2. This is going to be regarding involved at TU, specifically your rosters. So this is you're going to get 2 questions for this one. I'm going to do the first question first. And the first question is, when should you update your organization's involved at TU roster? Okay, I'm going to give another, let's say 5 seconds. All right, with 170 people, we got uh, an overwhelming majority, 165 of you said all of the above. And that is correct. So we just are currently going through student organization re-registration, and you're asked to update your roster as a part of that. But a big part of keeping your roster updated is that you also need to be updating your roster anytime new members are joining or when current members leave your organization. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But let's do the second quiz. Be sure you're keeping track of your scores. What is the minimum number of students required to be on your student organization's roster? This one might be a little bit more challenging. Let me give about 5 more seconds. All right, and this one a little bit more split. With 58% of the vote for 5, 5 is the correct answer. That is the minimum number of students to maintain a student organization. So you have to have a minimum number of 5 students on your roster. So kudos to those of you that got that. That one is definitely a more challenging question. Okay. So I mentioned, so this was one of the big things that we talked about in the fall semester is the need for student organizations to be managing and keeping their rosters up to date. And there's a lot of reasons for this. But specifically, your roster should accurately reflect who is a member of your organization. The re-registration period is a time where we prompt you saying, hey, please update your roster and make sure that the right people are on your roster. So if there's a bunch of names on your roster and be like, I'm the president and I have no idea who those people are. I mean, you can ask your other officers to make sure you're just not being forgetful, but otherwise, like, kick them off. They're not, if you don't know who they are, they're not members of your organization. Mentioned there's a minimum of 5 and keeping up with the changes as the semester goes on. So for instance, making sure you're adding new members after the involvement fair when you're starting to get your rush of new people joining. I wouldn't just put people on your roster if they came to your table necessarily and said, hey, I'm interested in your club. But if they've come to your next meeting or two, whatever your requirements for someone joining your group are, if they're meeting those requirements, make sure you're adding them to your roster. And then similarly, when people stop coming to your meetings or say they no longer wish to be involved, make sure you're taking them off your roster. I mentioned there's a lot of benefits for this, but like the biggest thing is, and I've had this actually come up recently in this past semester, where student organizations have had to have elections or who have actual votes of their organization to decide a matter, like based on their constitution. And they were basically like, yeah, the people that are on involved at TU, we don't know who most of those people are. It's not actually like our actual membership. And then there was a debate of who's actually in the club. If your roster is accurate, then you won't run into situations where you're like, who is actually a voting member of your club? Because they would be actively listed on the roster. Oh, okay. I'm just going to add a comment here. So, if you're on your phone, first of all, thanks for joining us. I know everybody's technological situation is differently. Apparently, the polls are not loading if you're on your phone. Don't worry, there's no penalties or prizes for the polls. It is for fun, and you're basically competing against yourself. So, I apologize if you're missing it. You are still getting the information now of what was on the poll. It's just for fun. Oh, so just so you know, last semester, but we set the October 1st deadline for groups to have a minimum of 5 members on their roster, and there was literally only one group that didn't have the minimum of 5 members that we marked inactive, and that group didn't contest it in any sort of way after multiple emails, so we just assumed they were no longer a group. So good job on you, at least to getting above the 5. But obviously, we're aiming for accuracy with your rosters as well. And when we asked student orgs at the town hall, how did people do on keeping their rosters up to date? The vast majority said they were on top of it, both with adding and removing members. 4 said, yeah, we were good about adding people, but we didn't take anybody off, which is fair. And 1 person said they just didn't know they had to do this, which is also understandable, especially if they did not attend the summit. That being said, so it seems like from like self-reporting, a number of groups felt like you guys did pretty well with this. And of course, there's a lot of groups on this campus, so the sampling for this could not be necessarily reflective of everything. I mentioned at least one instance, but I know anecdotally that there were definitely groups that didn't keep their rosters up to date. So I would recommend talking through it with your officers to delegate the responsibility to an officer or officers to manage throughout the semester. So, for instance, maybe it is the secretary's responsibility after meetings to add new members after they've shown up twice to the organizations involved at TU roster. And maybe it's the vice president's role that if, like, hey, people haven't been showing up as you're doing your attendance, to say, hey, I'm going to take these people off because they've been no longer active with our group. If you're not sure how to manage your roster on Involved at TU, good news for you. There is a new video guide resource that we released last semester, and I'm going to show you that later when I do a walkthrough of the new student organization resource page. But for now, if you want to say hi to YouTube, you can skip ahead to the video where we will do the guide if that's what you're looking for. But otherwise, that's going to be coming in just a little bit. All right, and this is our final formal quiz, and this is about tracking attendance. So this is 2 questions. And I'll read the questions. So if don't put your answers in the chat if you're on mobile, but you won't be able to see the result, the multiple choice options anyway. But here's the first question. Select the answer that best completes this prompt. Student organizations are required to track attendance. Then give about another 5 seconds. Yeah. And with 172 votes in, anytime the organization gathers with 78% is the correct answer. So this is a little bit more of a nuanced question. Maybe you got thrown off when you said, oh, yeah, these are the common things. But no, anytime your group is getting together for a formal club activity, you would need to make sure that you are tracking attendance. And we'll talk about how attendance is tracked in just a second, but mark down your score if you got it correct or not. And the final question. The primary method for student organizations tracking attendance is, I'm going to give about 5 more seconds. Okay, with 164 votes in and 90% of the vote have students check in with an involved it to you QR code is the correct answer. So we're going to talk about that in a second. To the one person who said to email Chris the list of attendees there too, please do not do that. I get plenty of emails as it is. Um, yes, those that wrote have students sign in on a sign-in sheet. That's not a bad backup to have, but for our tracking purposes and the requirement we're asking groups to comply with is to make sure all of your attendance is tracked through involved at TU. And it is actually one of the easiest methods to do it. And I'll talk a little bit about why it can actually be beneficial for your club as well. Okay, thank you for participating in these polls. We're going to grade in just a moment. Let's talk about this one first. So tracking attendance for all student organization gathers. So anytime your group meets, practices, holds an event, travels off campus as a club sponsored activity, you need to make sure you're recording the attendance of all your gatherings on Involved at TU. So a couple of things about this, like making sure to actually track attendance, you need to make sure you're doing a couple things to make sure it happens. The first thing is you need to create an event on Involved at TU. So if it's for a rehearsal, it would be like, Tuesday rehearsal or weekly meeting, whatever it is, right? Then from the event management page, you can download the QR code. You can save it to your phone as a screenshot and have people scan it, from your phone. You can print it out. You can put it up on a screen. We used a QR code today. It's not quite the same QR code as this system, but it's the same idea where you get the QR code and it takes them directly to the sign-in. All they need to do when they get to your event then is you pull up the QR code or have them scan your phone. What they'll sign into Involved at TU, and it automatically will check them in as long as they sign in with their NetIDM password. There is options for manually adding people. So like, let's say somebody left their phone was dead, whatever the case might be. You can add attendance after the event. And there is a full, very detailed walkthrough that Kelly put together on Involved at TU. So that also in the future, you will get to see where that's located. So if you're not familiar with this process, for the sake of time, I'm going to recommend you watch the video to go through more details. But essentially, create the event, you get the QR code, and then you will have people scan it, is the process. So last semester, we did I say we, let me clarify, the SOAs helped in doing a blind audit for us of randomly selecting 14 groups to see how did they do with attendance tracking. So how are our groups doing throughout the semester? So a couple of things that we noted. So we're not calling anybody out or highlighting anybody specifically. So their names are blank. So it's organizations A through N. You can see here that 4 of our organizations out of the 14 did not post any events on Involved at TU. And I know from personally knowing these groups, at least 3 of those groups, they definitely had meetings. I know they had meetings, they had events and activities by the nature of the groups. The 4th one I can't vouch for, but the 3 I'm definitely sure. We also can note that organization G, you can see they posted 6 meetings or events, but they didn't track attendance at any of them. So, they did a good job at least of putting some of their activities in, but they didn't really track attendance well. The remaining groups, if you kind of look at them, they attract attendance at roughly 50% of their activities. So, some did better than others. Many groups did post weekly meetings for the entire semester. So I'm acknowledging this, for instance. Some groups put in a lot of requests or things early on, and then they maybe didn't meet that week, etc. So that may have thrown off some of these numbers, but we saw that there was a good faith effort by at least 10 of the, or 9 of the 14 groups that we had picked for this random audit. I want to give a couple special shout outs to Organization F here, who posted 26 events. Congratulations to them for being busy throughout the semester. And then Organization J, who tracked attendance at 90%, 9 out of 10. So, and I don't even know if that last event happened. They might be at 100%. So good job on some of our groups definitely doing a little bit better than others. But of the requirements that we added this semester, this seems to be the one that groups are still maybe falling short a little bit with making sure they're staying on top of. So we wanted to provide a little bit more maybe guidance of things that you can do to help make sure that you do better about tracking your attendance. So the first tip I'm going to have for you is you do not need to wait until like the day or the week before your event to put in your requests. If you have weekly meetings from now to the end of the semester, you can literally go in right now. Well, maybe not right now during the summit, but after the summit, and you can put in all your requests for the whole semester. And that way, when those events are coming up or your meetings are coming up, any officer that has access to your Involved at TU page can just go in and download the QR code. Um, I want to specifically shout out the K-pop dance club. I don't remember the name of the individual, but someone from this group, they submitted, Amelia, you can maybe vouch better than I can, who approved all these. They must have submitted 50 requests in the past week. So I already know they're practicing their butts off this semester. So just so you know, like if you put them in early, then you don't have to worry about it later. You can definitely do, yeah, she was the one that approved them. So yeah, they did a really good job. So shout out to you, K-pop dance club, wherever you are. We're asking for our sake, while you should put in everything early, there's really no reason to wait. If you don't do that, please try to submit your events at least 5 business days in advance. We do generally get to them much quicker than that. But like for instance, the school closes down and we have random snow days and stuff, and you have events that are happening next Wednesday, right? If you did not submit them early, they may not get approved in time. Okay. So, the last thing I'm gonna ask about this is this did happen last semester. Like, please don't like email us like it's 3:30 and like, hey, I just posted an event that's happening in 2 hours. Can you go in and approve it for us? We will approve them as quickly as we can. Specifically, the SOAs and Amelia really do handle the bulk of the approvals, and they work regular hours throughout the week. But if you submit something, let's say on a Saturday, and you're trying to get something for Monday night, like that might be a quick turnaround where your thing doesn't get approved in time. We want to make sure that you're able to track attendance properly. Okay. The last thing I want to say is really having a plan is important for this. So it doesn't have to just be you as the president or you as the vice president or the secretary. You can make an entire plan of who on the exec board is doing what. So it could be maybe the secretary is putting in all the events and the vice president is responsible for tracking the attendance at every activity. Or maybe the president's responsible for bringing the QR code for e-board meetings, the vice president's going to take care of the events, and the secretary does it for general body meetings. It could be whatever you guys want, but you should talk with your officers to make a plan. First, tell them if you haven't been doing this, if you're one of the 4 groups we highlighted, like, Chris called us out at the summit. We need to make sure we're tracking our attendance, right? So you can say we need to develop a plan and then put something in place so that you're good to go for the whole semester. I'll also mention that we were very lenient during the rollout for fall 2025. Like we had a lot of new things that we threw at you guys. So, we didn't call anybody out or like say, hey, we noticed you're not tracking attendance, et cetera. But I will tell you that for spring 2026, we're going to be more vigilant in saying like doing a random checks of saying like, hey, our groups. So if we see groups that are not posting their events or not tracking your attendance, you can expect a follow up, either from me, Amelia, or one of our SOAs about like, hey, like we've noticed your organization's not been actively posting events, and we know you're hosting them because we see them coming through for 25 Live, et cetera, right? So we don't want to get in a situation where like if you don't actually understand, I would say start by watching the video. But secondly, if you really need help beyond that, like we will let you come into the office. We'll like I'm happy to walk you through step by step. Like here's what you need to do to like make sure you're getting the QR code downloaded. But shout out to a lot of groups who obviously did make really good faith efforts this year for tracking their attendance. Okay, guys. The last thing I had about this was have a backup plan. So this was actually at the town hall when I asked them like what were some of the difficulties that people had with tracking attendance. This got 4 people that agreed with this. So clearly they had a plan, and their plan was the secretary is going to take the attendance at all the events, but then the secretary is having trouble showing up to everything, for whatever reason. So obviously, as you're developing your plan, making sure it's like, okay, if Chris can't be there for whatever reason, or Chris isn't going to come to this event or activity, then we need to make sure that there's a backup for who's going to take the attendance. Every officer can log into the Involved at TU system and get the QR codes from your event page. So it's not just, even if the secretary made the event, anybody that has administrative access, which by default is your president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary, any of those 4 can automatically go in and get it. And if you have other officers, you can give them administrative access, which Kelly goes over in the roster video. So This is my guidance to you. So, like, if you were having trouble, so like I said, some of the groups admitted, like, yeah, we had our biggest trouble as like the person who said they're going to do it just wasn't there. Coming up with a plan that includes somebody backing that person up. Okay, now it's time to do grading. So, I'm going to open up one last poll here. So let's see tell us how you did. And feel free to be honest. You're not being graded on this. This will not affect your GPA. So tell us how to grade yourself and how you did. If you think you got most of the answers right, I'd define most as 4 out of 5. That's 80%. Um, but I'll let you be the judge of your own own thing. Congratulations, Titus. Yeah, you can pat yourself on your back. You got all of them right. The knowing that you have to have a minimum of 5 on your roster, that was a more obscure question. So congratulations if you got that one. I didn't want to make them all, I would say, too easy, but you guys did obviously a very good job of recollection. Okay, I'm with another 5 seconds to. I know this is a longer question thing. With 166 responses. Here are the results. 60% of you said that you attended in the fall and you got all the questions or most of them right. So first off, shout out to you guys returning and honestly having paid really good attention then from last semester. So that's good that you were able to recall so much. Couple of you, so 4% did come in the fall, but you're glad it won't affect your GPA. Perfect. Um, that's okay. That's why we're going over the information again. And these are the ones that I was most interested in. So we had 16% said they didn't attend the summit in the fall, but actually knew most of the answers or got them right because other members of the club shared the information with them. So shout out to your other officers actually doing what we want them to do and sharing the information. And I hope that this group here, for those of you that haven't shared this information in the past, when you go back after the summit, try to make sure your members can come to the next summit and be able to say like, hey, my last president, treasurer, vice president, they really set me up for success because I already knew all this stuff going into the summit. All right. The next group said they didn't attend the summit, but guess most of the answers correctly. Shout out to you guys for just being smart then. We're using good deductive reasoning. Maybe I didn't make my questions that hard enough. And then only a small number, 2% of you, didn't get most of them right. That's okay. All right. Oh, you guys can't even see this. I'm so sorry. I didn't click share results. I read it all out. Here you go. This is what the results look like. I apologize about that. I was looking through. Sorry. Okay. But yeah, so thank you guys for participating in the polls and quizzes. I have, if we have time before the treasurer's workshop, I have one more for fun quiz about some other questions. We'll see if we can get to it. These were the primary changes that I did just go over. I will review this at the end of the summit just as like a recap, but the required officer positions, every group needing a president and treasurer. There is now a separate training, the student org financial training for the president and treasurer. You need to be maintaining your roster on Involved at TU and making sure you're taking attendance for all your student organization gatherings on Involved at TU. And I thought this was just an interesting slide. So just to share, like, did your organization's executive board discuss the new requirements? 6 groups said yes, but the president essentially said, I'm letting you guys know about this, but I got it all. One way to do it, but 3 said yes, they talked about it and then split up the responsibilities. 5 said no, they didn't talk about it, but they were basically told that they needed to do certain things. So I would say try to avoid putting your officers in this box. Like at least let them know like why or what they're being expected to do, or have a conversation if possible. But good to know. And then one person said this was the first time they even heard about the requirements. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing my screen here for a second, and I'm going to share. Hold on, let me try the right tab up here. I'm going to share my Chrome tab. So, as a part of last semester, I mentioned we've developed some new resources for student organizations. So, and these are going to be located on Involved at TU for you. So the first thing I want to talk about is I'm going to do these in the order I think that makes the most sense. So in this case, I'm going to talk about the new student organization resource page. So this is a page on Involved at TU that has essentially a bunch of stuff that we've compiled in one spot that if you're trying to figure something out as a student org, if you go to this page, you should be able to find the answer that you need. So there's a couple different ways you can access the student org resource page. One way is you can literally click on orgs and then search for student organization resource page. It's right here, student organization resources, and that will get you to the page. But many of you that have been officers for a long time are familiar with this. So previously, there was this campus link section that had a bunch of links, and we really condensed this down to just a very small number of links that are commonly used. So the first is a Tiger Stripes Google document, which many of you are going to be, if you're especially a returner, you're familiar with. But this second link here will take you directly to the student org resource page. I'll also mention I've left the purchase request form here as well. It's also on the student org resource page, but I know that you guys submit this very often, so I wanted to keep this as a quick link for you. But if you click on the student org resource page, this is what it looks like. So over here on the left, there is literally all of the forms broken down by what you might need to do. So all the stuff you're going to need for spring 2026 Tiger Stripes, all listed in this section. So for example, if you needed to get to the Google Doc, if you click this, it's going to take you over to the Google Doc. If you need to submit the collaboration form, it's listed here. Then these are just general student organization forms. So for example, if you're trying to submit facility reservations, this will take you to 25 Live, the purchase request form we've talked about. If you need to do a food waiver, travel liability waiver, if you are a new officer and these don't sound like things you know what they are or why you would click on them, hold on. We got the student org top 10 coming up in just a second. And then down here, I have SGA related forms and links. So most of these are going to take you to the SGA website. But essentially, if you need to submit judicial appeals, anything related to treasurer stuff, the SJ financial policy, this is under the SJ Treasurer's Hub, and then all the alternative funding sources, grants and things that SJ has are listed here. So this section here is essentially quick links to everything that you theoretically should need as a student org. Now, you heard me talk in the earlier section a lot about like there's these videos that you can go and you can find and learn more information. So this giant section here says click here to view videos. So you click the gallery and you can see there's two different tutorial videos listed here. This first video is for events. So this is for tracking attendance and how to create events. So if I click it, it will literally take you through like how to create events and how to track your attendance. And the second one here is for roster management. So this is if you need to give administrative rights, if you need to make sure your president and treasurer are listed as two separate people, these two videos will essentially walk you through that. And then the last section is the document section, and this is down here. You can click this View All Documents button, and it will take you to a full list. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, including recordings from previous summits, there PowerPoints. There is information about resources you can check out from the Student Government Association for team building activities for your club. But the one I wanted to show you is this student organization requirements checklist. So this was something that the SOAs worked on last semester to put together for you. And when you click it, it's going to bring you to a document that looks like this. And I'll tell you now, you're going to get an emailed a copy of this. So you will get this if you're the primary contact of your group on Involved at TU. But essentially, they put together essentially everything I just talked about in the training is listed here for what you need to do. So taking attendance for all gatherings via Involved at TU. And if you click this, I'll do it just for the sake of doing it. It's literally going to take you to a timestamp part of the video where it talks about specifically how to track attendance. Okay. Sorry, navigating with the zoom up is a little bit challenging sometimes. Okay. You know, I'm going to talk about this later, but we talked about maintaining accurate roster. This will tell you like how to access and edit your roster. It will take you back to the video. Attending the student Involved at TU re-registration. I'm going to talk about this later. And you're like, Chris, you said we need to re-register our club. I don't know how to do it. If you click this, it's going to open up Oh, it downloaded a document. You can't see it. It's on my computer. But essentially, it's literally downloaded a document that goes through the steps of how to do re-registration. So this can be used essentially by you to help make sure that they are able to go through and access all these things. Okay. I'm getting an important message that also wants you to say to access everything I just showed you. You don't need to click join on the resource page to access all these links. I'm on the page so you can't see it, but if you're not a member of a Groupon involved IT, you can be like, click here to request to join. Everything is public. There's nothing hidden from you all. So just make sure when you come to the page, just access the stuff as you need to. If you request to join, all that does is email me and Kelly saying, Amelia would like to join the student org resource page, but there's no reason for you to have to join. Okay. So yeah, so definitely use this. All the important stuff is here. You will get emailed, especially as we're getting students used to using this page through the first couple weeks of school. Like we'll link this to you in some of the emails. So in case you forget, this is where you can go to find it. But the easiest way to access it when that is literally where I know a lot of you used to going anyway, under campus links, it's literally just student org resources right here. Okay. All right. And we are at 1:55, which I think is literally perfect timing for the last portion of this. Second, I'm switching back to this, which is the student organization top 10. So so this portion of the summit is going to be to go over the top 10 things that you really need to know about as a student leader. So ironically, a lot of the links and things that I just showed you on the resource page are things I'm going to talk about directly right now. So if you forget some of the things like Chris was talking about this food waiver thing, where can I find information about a food waiver? If you go back to the student org resource page, you will find the information that I'm about to go over. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the training, you will also get a copy of these PowerPoint slides, so you will have access to all the information. And I'm going to warn you in advance, there's a lot of information on these slides coming up. I'm not going to read through everything, but that is intentional because there's some step-by-step stuff that will hopefully be helpful to you in the event you need like more guidance of how to do something. Okay, let's start with number one, because that's usually how we start things. So for number one, the biggest thing that I think the vast, like 98% plus of student organizations use on our campus, and one of the biggest reasons to be a student organization is to request space to have meetings and events on campus. So just so you know, if you are not a registered student organization, it is not free to host and do things on our campus. You would be theoretically charged. But by being a student organization, generally hosting meetings, activities, and events, as long as, well, I shouldn't say, I'll be careful with my wording here so I don't get in trouble with ECS, but essentially getting space as a student organization to host general club meetings and general activities is free for student organizations. So, for example, to have a meeting in the union doesn't cost you money, but if you request specific setup, tech costs, and stuff, then you get into particular charges. But generally, just to have the space to do activities, that is one of the big benefits of being a student organization. The key thing to know is that if you haven't requested space in the past, the first thing you need to do, every group can have what is called two authorized requesters. So those are the only two people in your club who can actually request space on behalf of your group. And the way you become an authorized requester is all of the things that are listed on the right-hand side of your screen. Talks about the Blackboard event planning training. You basically have to do a training on Blackboard to essentially learn about reserving space through event and conference services. Okay. So if you are new to your role and let's say your last officers have transitioned out, this would be a great place to start so you can make sure you're getting your requests in so that you can get space. Also, I will mention that so if this is something that's brand new to you and you definitely want to learn more about it, we have a breakout session that's going to happen later during the summit called Planning Events with ECS. I recommend going to that session so you can learn more about like the specifics, especially if you have questions. But a couple things I think you should definitely know about room reservations is that space is very limited. There's a lot of student organizations and we all are competing with each other to host things. So if you want to host, especially a very big event on a specific evening throughout the semester, the earlier you get your request in, the more likely you're going to get the space and the date and the time that you would like. Okay, so So definitely get your requests in. So if you know you want to do something big this semester and you haven't reserved it yet, I would recommend you do that even before the semester starts. If it's generally like just you need to get a meeting or something, on the calendar that's for a small number of people, that's usually less of an issue. But the really big things, the sooner you put them in, the more likely you're going to be to be able to get them approved. You can either request stuff for like one-off things, or you can put in a recurring request. So, for instance, if you have a weekly meeting every Tuesday night from 5 to 6, you don't need to do 100 or whatever, 15 reservations for the whole semester. You can put in one request and you can say this recurs weekly. Okay. So make sure, and you can figure this out for yourself. Like, who do you want the two authorized requesters for your org to be? It could be your president and vice president. It could be your president and secretary. It could be your events coordinator, whoever it makes sense for your group. Okay. But this explains how to do the training. It is also under the student org resource section. It takes you to the ECS website that goes over this too. So if you don't take a screenshot of this and you don't have it for later, you can also find it from the student org resource page. Okay, the second thing is contracts. So basically, the biggest thing to know about contracts is anytime you're bringing an outside guest to campus, and this can include a DJ, a guest speaker, you know, a vendor. Anytime you're bringing somebody from outside campus to campus, especially if you need to pay them, but generally speaking, anytime you're bringing someone to campus, you need to have a contract for that individual to come to campus. And there's a number of reasons for this I'm not going to get into, but like liability protection, et cetera. But essentially, a contract needs to be completed so that that person can come. The way this works, and this was one of the changes from last year, but essentially all you need to do is submit a purchase request form to initiate the process. So a purchase request form is what you would do anytime you need to spend money for your student organization. Essentially, you would just say, hey, we're trying to bring this DJ for this event coming up. And you would need to do that a minimum of 10 days. This is the important part. 10 days prior to your event. And then note that minimum is bolded and big because the more time you give us, the better chance that we can do to get the contract done because we need the contract to be completed before they can come to your event. If the vendor won't agree to the terms of our university contract, you're going to have to choose another vendor. So this is why I encourage you to do it early. So let's say you want to bring a DJ, but the DJ is like, well, I don't agree that if my equipment gets damaged, that I'm responsible for it, whatever it is, right? Then you would need to say, okay, I got to get a different DJ, and I have to then still submit this request data contract with the separate DJ. Once you submit the purchase request form, the SGA staff, they manage the process for you. Um, I bolded this on here. Never sign a contract yourself. Just so you know, like we are going to take care of that for you. You do not need to inject yourself into personal liability or accountability. Use the university process. We'll make sure that if the contract's signed, it's going to be on behalf of the university, like making the agreement with them and not just like you as an individual. SGA will not process contracts that are submitted late or after an event has taken place. So if you needed to, let's say you brought a DJ and you're like, yeah, I forgot to submit the contract. I'm going to try to submit it now. We need to pay this person because yeah, that's how you pay them. You're not going to be able to have the contract processed, and that person won't be able to get paid. So definitely make sure you're getting your contracts in advance. And this we will be gone over in much more detail during the SJ financial training. So for those of you that went last semester, some of this should be a reminder to you. But if you've not done this before, this is very important to make sure when you're trying to bring guests to campus that you're making sure it's all taken care of. Okay. The next thing here is posting flyers on campus. So registered student organizations, one of the benefits you get for being a registered group is that you are eligible to post flyers through campus, specifically in the academic buildings and residence halls. If you're trying to get your advertisements up, the first note about getting physical flyers posted is to get them stamped in the SJ office. This is University Union 263. And no matter where you're trying to post, this is the first step. By getting the stamp, it's basically the SGA saying, yes, this is a registered group on our campus and not just some random group of students trying to put up flyers. So that basically gives you your approval. For academic buildings, essentially the rule is every academic building is run through the dean's office of that college. So you generally need what is known as permission from the dean's office. What the S and every building is different. So I apologize. This is just the way it is. I know it can be difficult or confusing. One of the things the SOAs did literally last year, and they have been keeping it up to date for this year, is they created a student organization resource that has the posting guidelines for all the academic spaces on campus. So they've basically done the step of going to all the dean's offices and asking them, what do you need to do to essentially post in their buildings? So if you go to this link or go back to the student org resource page, it's under the document section. You can find literally like, what do we need to do to post in CLA? And it will explain it right then and there. For residence halls, you would need to take 20 copies to the HRL main office in Marshall Hall, and they just put them up for you. So you get them stamped, you drop them off, and they put them up, and it's one per building. You want to make sure you get it to them early enough, though, because it does take some time for them to distribute to all the RLCs to get put up. But essentially, just drop them off, and then they'll put them up, and you don't have to worry about it. And then in the unions, this is not for, we don't have like physical flyer posting options for the union. There are digital screens. So you've seen the TVs, etc. That is an option. I'm sure you've seen student organizations posting advertisements on there. That is an option through graphic and design services. So first and foremost, the biggest thing on the slide is that there's no charge for student organizations. So you can run ads for up to 2 weeks prior to any events, but they require at least 14 days prior to the event. And there is a form. This form can be found under the student org resource page. So you don't have to remember anything different. So if you go to student org resource page, you'll see the link there that says to request ads for the TV screens. Graphic and design services can help you with that. I put these in here just so you have them. I'm not going to go over them, but two common buildings people get in trouble with, or they're very vigilant, let me put it that way, in making sure that their buildings posting policies are followed: Center for the Arts and College for Liberal Arts. So honestly, some of the other buildings are more lax about it. They're not as but let me put it this way: if you put something up incorrectly in one of these buildings, I will get an email about it essentially the next day, and I'll basically be telling you have to go and fix it. So try to avoid that if you're posting in these two spaces. Okay, food waivers. So basically for food waivers is Tiger Hospitality Catering is the catering company that we as Towson University have a contract with. And as a part of the contract that Towson made with Tiger Hospitality is that they have what's called first right of refusal. And what that means is anytime anybody is trying to distribute food on our campus, they have the right, because they have an exclusive contract with the university, to say, no, you can't do that. If you want to basically have food that is not provided through them and their contract, you need to submit what is called a food waiver. A food waiver is just a form that basically says, "Hey, I would like to bring different food from wherever, Chipotle, Rita's Water Ice, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever it is." Dunkin' Donuts is a really bad example because we have that on campus, so they're going to be like, "You should just get the Dunkin' through us. We can provide it to you." But essentially, when do you need a food waiver? Basically, anytime, and this is the threshold. The threshold is $100. So anytime you are bringing food from outside campus where the total cost of the items is more than $100. So if it's, you're getting 2 pizzas or something for a group meeting, you're not going to need a food waiver. But if it's like, hey, we're going to buy 4 tubs of Rita's Water Ice for, 100 something dollars each, then that would require a food waiver. For donations do require a food waiver if the value of the food is worth more than $100. So essentially, even if it's, even if it seems like it shouldn't be a problem, like we're getting it for free, there's zero charge. They do it based on like, well, what would be the value of the food that you're trying to bring? $100 doesn't go very far these days. So for a lot of external stuff, you will need a food waiver. For this, they say you need to submit the food waiver 10 days prior to your event, and submitting it doesn't guarantee approval. So the Dunkin' Donuts example I gave before is exactly a terrible example, because if you said, yeah, I want to buy, whatever, 6 dozen donuts from Dunkin' off campus and bring them onto campus, that's probably a food waiver that would get denied, because they're going to say, well, we can provide that for you, so we're going to deny it, and you need to buy the donuts through us. They're usually pretty quick with the turnaround, though, but I would definitely give yourself as much time as possible to make sure that these get approved. Okay. Um, okay. Number five, traveling off campus. So anytime your group is traveling off campus as a part of a student organization sponsored activity, you need to have all of your members that are going on the trip complete a travel liability waiver. Both the food waiver and the travel liability waiver can be found on the student organization resource page. So this is in the same spot. Um, the form should be completed and turned in prior to the trip. So please make sure that before you go on the trip, you've had everybody complete the waiver and that they've been dropped off to the SGA office. What we recommend strongly is that you make a copy of the waivers to take with you on the trip. So if there is an emergency, the waivers have emergency contact information and their health insurance information so that, let's say somebody gets stung by a bee and they're going into shock and they're allergic and they're non-responsive, you can at least know who to contact and basically get them some help. And this is basically anytime you're doing anything off campus as a group. I think we talked about this in the fall summit, and there were some questions about like what constitutes a sponsored activity. So I'll try to give you an example. If you're saying, "Hey, as a club, we're gonna organize a trip to go snowboarding on Tuesday. Sign up. Let us know if you're coming." That would be a club sponsored activity because you're advertising it as a club trip. If it's like, "Hey, I'm the president of the club," and there's a member of the club and say, "Hey, I'm going snowboarding this weekend. Are you free? Do you want to come with me?" We're just going on a trip, the two of us together. It's not part of the club activity. Then that would just be like, all right, well, you're just going with a friend. That is separate. But if you're advertising it through like your organization's channels, putting out like whatever flyers in your group me, etc., like that's going to clearly constitute a club trip. You definitely need a waiver in those cases. So I'm letting you know this now, although I don't expect anything to affect what's happening this semester, although that's all subject to change. There's currently a university work group that's working on student organization travel processes. So what I'm anticipating is that there are going to be some changes for the fall semester related to student organization travel. If there's things that happen sooner, I will let you know. It'll come across via email. But essentially for this semester, we're following the normal processes that we've used for the last number of years, which is make sure you have your travel waivers in before you go, and that's all you really need to worry about. But what I would say, and I'm just giving you the heads up now, is that for fall 2026, just be prepared that we're going to probably have. Hold on one second. Got to get a mute in there. I was going to say for next semester at the summit, we'll likely have a much more detailed training that goes into place for travel processes. Okay, but just letting you know that's something that's probably coming on the horizon. Okay, last couple of these are some important policy/resources for you all. Number six is the hazing policy, and I do want to emphasize this as something that is very important, although I know for a lot of our groups, this hasn't historically been a big problem necessarily, but it's something that is, if it ever does happen, can be um, extremely dangerous both for the individuals involved and for the group as a whole. So how Towson defines hazing is any action taken or situation created intentionally, whether on or off campus, inflicted on persons, joining a group or members of a group that a reasonable person would consider having the potential to create mental or physical discomfort, embarrassment, harassment, or ridicule without the individual's consent. I think beyond the fact that this is a university policy of trying to protect our campus community, it is also illegal in the state of Maryland. So beyond potentially facing, conduct-related or accountability charges through the university, you could face criminal charges as well. So some examples of hazing could include mandating consumption of alcohol, running errands for members, or any sort of publicly humiliating stunts. There's a much more detailed policy on the website here. I recommend you review it, but just make sure you're being cognizant of the culture of your organization and how members are welcomed into your individual communities. Tangentially to that, I want to give you a couple of reporting forms should certain things happen. So Dr. Bradley, who talked earlier about her office and hate or bias incidents that you may observe within your organizations, First off, if something is happening on campus or in your organization space or an activity you're at that is, life-threatening and in the moment there's an emergency, you should start with to go directly to TUPD. Their number is just 704 and then all fours. And that way someone will come and respond to the incident in the moment. But if it's something that happened, you heard about it through another member, or it happened in a pocketed situation and you're debriefing after a meeting and there's not an immediate threat, what you should do in that situation is report it to OIIE. And there is a form that is included here that you can basically go to their website and basically let them know the information about it, and their team will investigate about what steps need to happen. And Dr. Bradley, I think, did a good job of explaining that, like, even if it's not necessarily a policy violation, if individuals' feelings or experiences has been negatively affected, their team can still come in and potentially help support your organization in that situation. So, and obviously in the cases where policies were violated, then there may be additional measures that get taken into account for those individuals involved. So please make sure you're submitting anything. They have a bunch of options. If you don't want to submit the form, you can, or you're not sure, you can also call their office, etc. They're very, very responsive to these types of reports. And the other type of report I want to tell you about is our SOS form. And this is to student outreach and support. And this form is to be used anytime you acknowledge if there's a student that you're concerned as. If somebody that has usually had like a really positive attitude coming to your meetings just randomly stopped coming, stopped responding to text messages, and you're worried about that individual, this would be the form you should submit. Say, hey, this person's not acting like themselves, and I want to make sure people are aware that like something might be up with them. So this is the form that you can submit. You can also submit this form for yourself. And I've encouraged students to submit this form that have talked to me. Honestly, I don't go a semester where I don't help a student fill out this form. Part of this is like if you're dealing with something, maybe there's a family crisis that's happening that's directly affecting you. SOS can help you with getting resources that will help you basically manage the situation, or if there's accommodations that we can get for you for your classes, etc. They're really good with working potentially with your professors to make sure that you get the help you need. The last thing about this is similar to the one before it. If it's an emergency situation, like you think someone's imminently going to hurt themselves for whatever reason, in those cases, don't just submit the form. You should contact that directly to TUPD. All right, the last couple here, which are going to be quicker ones. Student org finances. This is just since we've now added this new student organization training that you're going to go through for your president and treasurer, which are going to go into great detail. I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you about the ins and outs, but that training is going to help you tell you how to utilize your on-campus bank account, how to spend money, and essentially all the things you need to know to operate financially as a group. The one thing I want to highlight that is very important, because this has come up, is that student organizations, you are given an on-campus account automatically by the university, and through our policies, it is a requirement that that is the only bank account that you utilize for your organization's business. So student organizations, the only thing highlighted on this page, are not permitted to collect and store funds in any other accounts, such as Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Square, any other ones you can think of. You're not allowed to utilize those platforms. You need to utilize your on-campus account and the purchase request form. If you have questions related to anything financial, like, hey, I'm having trouble accessing money, or we have this complicated purchase coming up and I want to make sure we're going to be able to pay for it in the proper way, there is an email address on this slide, sgafinance@towson.edu. If you email that, you'll get to the finance team, who will be able to basically respond and make sure you get the help you need for managing any club purchases. All right, number 9. This is a reminder for those that have been a group for a long time, but for those of you that maybe started last semester, the minimum requirements to remain an active student organization. So as long as you do these things, you can remain a club essentially indefinitely at Towson, but these are the things you need to do to make sure you stay a organization in good standing. First, attendance at the Student Group Leadership Summit each semester. You're here. Awesome. You're doing it. The second thing is to register your organization on Involved It TU. So this is open. It was open since December. Your primary contact on Involved It TU has gotten multiple reminders telling you to update your primary contact and fill out this form. If you have not done this yet and you are the president of your club, you need to do it. There's information on the checklist of how to do it, but I'll also show you if you come to my Tiger Stripe session, there's a screen that walks through the steps for re-registration. So you can come to my session to learn about that. But essentially, that is also your opportunity to get on the logo wall. So if your group is newer and you want to have your logo put up on the wall on the second floor of the union, you need to fill out that form. Have your advisor complete the advisor recommitment form. This is only necessary during the fall semester unless your advisor is changing. If you're having a new advisor this semester, please let us know and complete the advisor form. This is one of the things you signed off on when you re-register your club, that if your advisor is switching mid-year, that you're going to inform us. And the last thing, and we've talked about this already in this training, is the president and treasurer complete the student org financial training. So once per academic year, if you did it in the fall, you're good. If you're new and you haven't done it, and you're the president or treasurer, make sure you do it this semester. And then the last thing we want all groups to know is involved at TU. And specifically, this platform has all of your group information and obviously a lot of resources for you. Specifically, I want to highlight the student organization resource page, has all the forms and documents that you need really as a student organization. It's also where you can access your Tiger Stripes information through the Google document, and it has all of our contact information for student orgs. The most important thing to know regarding involved at TU really is, though, that your primary contact, whoever you have on is the primary contact of your group, which should be your president. That is the person who's going to receive all the important student organization communications that our office and the SGA send. So if that is not the correct person, if it's the person who graduated last semester, make sure you do the re-registration form so that information gets updated to the proper person so that you're getting the important emails about whatever it is, involvement, fair registrations, etc. Okay. With that, we are at 2:21. I went 1 minute over time. We do not have time for the bonus quiz. I am sorry. I said I'd save it if there was time, but I do want to make sure we keep on track. And I want to get, if there's time during the break or something, maybe I'll throw it up there. But otherwise, I'm going to let Madison, if you're on the call.
Hi guys, can y'all hear me?
Yeah. All right,
Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna stop sharing. Sorry, I went 1 minute over time, so cut into your bit a little. But Madison is our SGA treasurer, and Madison is going to go over the treasurer's workshop information. So you can go ahead and take the wheel.
Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys just let me know if you can see everything? This is a two monitor situation, so I'm looking at two different screens. Can everybody see everything? Some head nods? Okay, perfect. So, hi everybody, I'm Madison Allen. I'm the treasurer for the 105th administration of SGA. And then to contact me, I just left the email here. It's sgatrez@towson.edu. So with that being said, we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. All right, so all undergraduate students pay Student Government Association fees. So all of the money that the SGA has.
Hey, Madison, can I cut you off for 2 seconds?
You go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Kelly is right. If you are a graduate group, sorry, just post in the chat that I'm going to create a breakout room really quickly. Go ahead and just post in the chat if you're a graduate. Just write graduate student or graduate organization, and I'll move you into a breakout session. And you can keep going. I'm so sorry, Madison.
No, you're completely fine. Can everybody still see the presentation? We're all still good? Okay, perfect. You're completely fine, Chris. So sorry about that. All right, so like I was saying, the money that the SGA has, all of the money that comes to the SGA, it's from fees that students pay each semester. So our budget is highly dependent on the number of undergraduate students that are enrolled. So the SGA fees for fiscal year 2026 are $58 per semester for full-time students, and then $9 per credit hour for part-time students. This just goes into some of the timelines when it comes to an organization requesting the budget. So qualified groups who meet all of the necessary requirements can request a semester budget each semester they're eligible. So groups who are requesting a budget this spring, as in spring 2026, they are requesting funds that will be spent in the fall. So that will be for fall 2026. These are the requirements to receive a semester budget. To get a budget allocation from SGA, your organization has to be Tiger Stripes Package 3 or 4. 1 and 2, unfortunately, are not eligible. It is Tiger Stripes Package 3 and 4. You also have to attend the Treasurer's Workshop either during the Student Org Summit or the Makeup Treasurer's Workshop. So if you're attending the Student Org Summit, which you all are, you guys have met that requirement. You have to attend the mandatory finance training that Chris mentioned earlier. As he said, if your organization went last semester, you do not have to go again this semester unless you just want the information as a refresher. You also have to submit an initial budget and attend an FAC meeting. These two things are now mandatory and they're absolutely required if you would like the budget committee to review your final budget and hear your presentation. You also have to submit your final budget on time with all of the necessary components, and then the components are listed below. I'm going to email a provided spreadsheet, and for spring 2026, it's blue. So please make sure that when you do it, you submit the correct spreadsheet and do not alter the spreadsheet in any way. All you'll need to do is enter the necessary information into the cells. As I said, when the budget information is released in a few weeks, this information will be going to attendees of the Student Org Summit, so everybody who's here now, as well as those who attend the Makeup Treasurers Workshop. So again, make sure that all of your information is correct and make sure that you attach the correct spreadsheet. Again, spring 2026 is blue, and I'll show a picture of that in upcoming slides. You'll also need to include research. Research, I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but that's a very important part of the budget process. And then you'll need to do a visual presentation. The presentation can be done through whichever platform of your choosing, whether you decide to use PowerPoint, Canva, or a PDF. But either way, it should essentially compile your spreadsheet and your research into a visual presentation. So same for the initial budget, you're going to have to include the spreadsheet, the research, and the presentation in both components. Even if you're not entirely finished, you still don't know exactly what it is your organization is doing or has planned. For the initial budget and the final budget, it is absolutely required that you submit all three components. That's non-negotiable. So moving on to more requirements, you'll need to attend a budget hearing. These are also mandatory, and this is where your organization is actually going to give your presentation. You'll also need to fundraise 15% of your allocated budget by the end of the semester where the funds were allocated. So groups who have not fundraised past allocations will not be eligible to receive new funding from SGA until that requirement is satisfied. So do keep that in mind. And that goes into the last requirement. You cannot have any debt with the SGA Finance Office. So to be very explicitly clear, only student leaders who are attending the Treasurers Workshop, so whether during the summit or whether it's during a Makeup Treasurers Workshop session, will be receiving the budget process emails. So there's no information collected from any other platform. Everything is collected through you guys signing in here, as well as signing into the Makeup Treasurers Workshop. So it's very important. I don't know if you all have, I'm assuming you have because it's been about an hour, that you guys do sign in here and you sign in with your Towson student email address. If you use your personal email address, I can't guarantee that you'll receive the necessary information or see anything that I send out. So again, it's very important that you use your Towson email address and make sure that it's also spelled correctly so that when I do send that budget information, you can receive everything that you need to receive. So going back to the spreadsheet I was referencing earlier, this is what it's going to look like for each semester. The color is just going to change. So obviously at the top, you're going to need to put in all of the important information for your organization. So that's the unabbreviated name of your student organization, the name and email address of your treasurer, the name and email address of your president, and the email for your organization if your organization has one. Later in the presentation, I'll delve in deeper to the different types of accounts, but what you all need to know right now is that in the event column, the only thing you need to put there is the name of your event. So nothing else needs to go in that column aside from what your event is named. In the second column, so the item description column, we just need the name of the item or service you're requesting. So for example, if you're requesting Tiger Hospitality Catering, as you see it's listed, you would just put Tiger Hospitality Catering. We don't need to know what type of cuisine it is. We don't need to know what it is. We just need a general idea of what it is you're trying to get. If you're requesting a DJ, you would just do DJ, so on and so forth. And then obviously the requested amount, that's how much money the service or item is going to cost. Now, I understand that there are things that can be inflated. You might be using a quote or just a screenshot from a previous year because you don't know how much it costs right now, but the price might have gone up. It's completely fine if you all do round up or include a little bit more money to adjust for inflation, but you need to be able to justify that in your research. So as long as you have some type of number that makes sense, that's in alignment with what it is you're requesting, it's completely fine to include it in your research. Just make sure you don't have any arbitrary numbers that can't fully be justified. So this is going to be the timeline for the semester budget process for 2026. So obviously you have to attend the treasurer's workshop, which you all are doing now. Again, make sure you're signed in with your Towson email address so that we have a record and you guys can get that information. Budget information is going to be sent to those individuals who are signed in, and that's going to be released on February 9th, 2026. As I mentioned earlier, initial budget submissions and FAC meetings are now absolutely mandatory. The initial budget is due on February 27th, and FAC meetings will be taking place from March 2nd to March 6th. This just makes sure that we can make any corrections and give you all necessary feedback before you guys submit your final budget. Speaking of the final budget, it's going to be due on March 9th, and there are absolutely no exceptions to the deadline. So please make sure that your information is not only submitted on time, but submitted accurately as well. Lastly, the last step of the budget process is going to be the budget hearing, which are taking place from March 23rd to March 27th. This is when, again, the SGA Budget Committee will hear your budget request. You guys will present and we'll take that information. And then before the end of the semester, you all will receive information whether your budget has been approved or denied. So these dates will be shown again. You don't have to write them down. They'll be shown again and they'll be posted as well for your reference. All right, so moving on to the actual funding and processes, we're going to begin talking about Tiger Stripes. So all groups that plan to use SGA funding must be registered as an organization through the Office of Student Activities. Tiger Stripes is the registered student organization incentive program that provides access to campus resources based on completing a series of requirements. To benefit from SGA funding, organizations must be package 2, 3, or 4, but as I said earlier, only packages 3 and 4 will be receiving an SGA semester budget. So these are basically just each package. I won't get into them because I know Chris will cover a lot about Tiger Stripes, but package 2, 3, and 4. For package 2, you can request some grant funds and receive up to 2 supplemental requests. Package 3 can request a budget from SGA and receive up to 3 supplemental requests. And then package 4 can receive a budget from SGA as well as $150 for a banner once a year and $250 for recruitment food. Package 4 organizations do not need to include this in their budget request. You just need to submit a purchase request form for these items. You absolutely do not need to include them in your budget request. So getting into the account funding maximums, there are 4 different accounts that SGA will provide money for, which is activity, equipment, advertising, and travel. Every group has a general account, and that's where fundraise money is stored, and we don't touch that. SGA never touches an organization's general account. We only handle the other 4 accounts. So the activity account, the funding maximum is $2,500. The equipment account, the maximum is $3,000. The advertising account, the maximum is $1,000. And the travel account, the maximum is $2,000. So as an organization, you can choose one of these accounts to increase the maximum by $1,000. So if you'd like to increase your travel to $3,000, you can do that with an account increase, but you can only do it one time. Once you've done it once, you can't do it again. So the activity account, like I said, that's the first account that I mentioned. It's pretty much the backbone of any on-campus event, and it funds a variety of things like food and entertainment. But the activity account absolutely cannot be used to fund any event decorations. It's limited to a $700 allocation for food per event, as well as a $700 allocation for DJs and other entertainment per event. The equipment account is meant to be used for ECS services as well as other equipment rental charges. So this account funds all of the technology that's needed to support your event. Your group absolutely must use the ECS price list when submitting your funding request. And if you want to use any external vendor or anybody that's outside of ECS, you'll need to receive written approval from them to use those outside sources. The printing and advertising account is basically any type of print material. So if you like flyers, posters, for one, they all have to go through TU Art Services as well as the Copy Center. The price list for both of these can be found online, and organizations can allocate a maximum of $150 for flyers per event. So like I said, it pretty much funds any type of promotion that you need. I also do want to make this key because this has switched not as of recently, but as of last semester, I would say. Advertisement screens are free for student organizations. Student organizations used to have to pay for them at one point, but they are now free. So you guys do not need to include those in your budget request. They're completely free for student organizations. The last account that SGA will fund is the travel account. Now, the travel account can only be used by organizations who are Tiger Stripes Package 4, and there are many regulations that come with using the travel account. So, for one, Towson has many transportation resources. That's minivans, 10 passenger vans, charter buses, and more. So, if you're trying to plan for travel, the first thing you should do is look through TU transportation resources and see if they have anything that will align with your needs. Their information can be found on the Towson website as well. So again, if you're trying to find any type of transportation vehicle, you need to be starting with them before you look externally. If your organization does decide to use a personal vehicle to travel, you will be reimbursed through the mileage reimbursement process. So the current reimbursement rate is 70 cents per mile. So if you are including travel in your budget research, you need to account for round trip mileage. So to your destination from Towson and then back to your destination or back to Towson. Make sure that, again, you are using that 70-cent mile rate, because anything more than that, it will result in accurate numbers. Just make sure that's properly being included in your budget research. You can also use a hotel if your travel is more than 20 miles from Towson's campus. There can be a maximum of 4 people per room per night, with a maximum of 3 nights total that can be booked. Lastly, conference and convention registration can be allocated for up to $600 per person. Speaking on hotels, it's very important that if your organization does plan on using travel, you all are prioritizing the use of hotels and not Airbnbs or hostels. It's just safer, and there's a lot less liability when you guys use those external resources. So just make sure that if you're accounting for travel, you're looking specifically for a hotel. So going into budget research, it's very important that when your organization is submitting a budget, they are including that budget research. So research can be a screenshot, a quote. Obviously, I know with certain things, certain services, you can't get an exact number. So if you have screenshots, quotes, any previous receipts, those are things that you can include in your research. So for example, if your organization is asking for money for catering, you can request a quote from Tiger Hospitality and include that in your research. For mileage reimbursement, you would pretty much just take a screenshot of Apple Maps or Google Maps, and from, like I said, from Towson to your destination, and then from your destination back to Towson, and you would account for the mileage to make sure you get that reimbursement. When the budget committee does deliberate on allocation, funds can only be allocated to requests that have proof of research. So if you're missing these things, again, because it is mandatory in every single aspect of the budget process, then you cannot be allocated any funding. But during the FAC meetings, when you all submit your initial budgets, we're going to allocate time to review your research and make sure that everything is properly accounted for. This is an example of an organization spreadsheet. As we can see, they have everything filled out the exact way that they should. In the B column, they have the name of the event. Again, that is the only thing that we are looking for. In the C column, which is the description column, they have the name of their item or service. For example, they requested food, a DJ host. That's all that we're looking for. And then lastly, in the requested amount column, they have either an exact amount or an approximation of how much the service will cost. This is an example of their research document. You can present your research however you would like. If you would like to do it as a presentation, you can. It's preferred that you do it as a document just so that it's easier to review. But this shows a screenshot of TU Catering for $239. This shows us what they're requesting. And then if you go back to the spreadsheet, this was included there as well. And then lastly, this is their actual budget presentation, which again is the information from your spreadsheet and research document compiled. They have a description of the event as well as what account they're requesting money from and how much they need from that account. Moving on to budget changes. If your organization needs to shift where money is within your budget, you would submit a budget change. Budget changes do not add money, they just move money around. So there are many restrictions on actually submitting a budget change. They must be submitted 10 days before any event. So if you plan to do something, you need to do it 10 days ahead of time. I can only approve up to $500. Anything more than $500 will require Senate approval through General Assembly. If that is the case, I would say a lot more time because General Assemblies can be long and packed with information. So if you're requesting more than $500, I would say work more than 10 days in advance just so that it can actually hit the GA floor and get approved in time. There's a maximum of 2 changes per semester and 4 per year, and I can only approve 2 changes. And again, it must be submitted through the budget change form with proper evidence and justification. The grace period is something that exists within the first 2 weeks after the first treasurer's workshop. So after this session, it's 2 weeks from now if an organization wants to move any money around in their budget within the grace period. So new student organization executive boards can propose changes to an organization's budget, again, by submitting that budget change form and contacting me if the overall budget is not increased. So after the grace period, and this is incredibly important, so I want to make sure this is emphasized. After the grace period, the fundraising amount will not adjust in contingency to budget change requests. So after the 2-week period, which again is from now until another 2 weeks, if you guys submit anything and you're trying to, I wouldn't say lower the amount of money, the fundraising amount is still going to remain the same. If you were told that you have to fundraise $600, you're still going to have to fundraise that $600 regardless of what your budget change included. The only time it will change is from now up until 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks of the Treasurer's Workshop, that's the only time budget changes will occur and your fundraising amount will change. Anything outside of that, it will not change. Speaking of fundraising, groups that receive a budget allocation or supplemental funds from SGA are required to fundraise 15% of the allocated amount. So for example, if your group receives $950, you'll be responsible for fundraising $142.50 specifically during the semester you receive that allocation. Deposits should be made to AUX Services in West Village, where the One Card office is, and the deadline this semester is going to be the last day of classes, which as of right now is May 12, 2026. All funds will be deposited into your organization's general account and can be used quickly, as SGA never takes or uses an organization's fundraised money. As Chris mentioned earlier, groups are absolutely not permitted to have any off-campus bank accounts or use third-party financial vendors. So this is Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, anything like that, groups are not permitted to use. Using any of these processes does break financial policy and may result in your organization being held accountable through the university accountability process. For supplemental requests, only groups that are Tiger Stripes Package 2, 3, or 4, as I mentioned earlier, have access to supplemental requests. These are only meant to provide funding for unforeseen circumstances. So any emergencies, newly developed projects, or additional expenses for projects that are already included in a student organization's budget. Supplemental requests occur through the Senate. So an organization will decide on an event that does not appear in their budget. A senator will write a finance bill for the organization, and the bill will go through the legislative process through General Assembly. It will be reviewed at General Assembly, and the Senate, if they come to a vote, they will vote on it during that time. And then if passed and signed, the organization can then access the additional funding. There are also some restrictions on supplemental requests as well. They are limited to a single event. They can include multiple accounts, but they cannot exceed any account maximums. They must follow financial policy, and they also cannot be used for reimbursement. If an organization does not get the budget allocation, or if they're just looking for any additional funding, SGA does have a number of grants that are meant to support student organizations. I won't list all of them, but just to name a few, we have a collaboration grant, which is meant to promote collaboration between different student organizations. We have a SAFE grant, which is meant to assist with the cost of security for large-scale events. And then we have a sustainability fund, as well as many others, but the sustainability fund specifically is meant to promote sustainable projects. Items that are not funded by SGA, there's a variety of items that are not funded. So again, I won't read all of them, but just to name a few, we do not fund any fundraisers for student organizations who are trying to meet the SGA mandated requirements. Again, we do not fund decorations, so no balloons, tablecloths, anything of that nature. And we also do not fund any non-consumable goods that could become individual possessions. We also don't fund any events that are exclusive and not open to the student body. So also, along with that, student organizations cannot charge for any event that is funded by SGA. Anything that SGA money is contributing to, student organizations are absolutely not allowed to charge for those events. Speaking more on organizations and events that we do not fund, SGA does not fund any events that are discriminatory, closed, or exclusive to the student body. If SGA is funding an event, it is open to the entire student body and anybody can participate. SGA also does not fund any events whose primary purpose is to proselytize a religion or faith, and events advocating for a particular person or campaign. So this going for honor societies as well as individual Greek chapters, they are welcome to apply for collaboration funds, but this is only if the event is going to be open to all students. Okay, this is a slide I would take note of. Again, this information is going to be shared again, so if you don't get it now, it's not the end of the world, but this is just going into those very important dates, requirements, as well as timelines. So for initial budgets are due Friday, February 27th at 11:59 p.m. Now, with this being a Friday, I, as well as the SGA finance team, will be able to troubleshoot issues until 5 p.m. Anything outside of that, we unfortunately cannot assist with. So if you have any questions, you need any advice, I would be able to assist you up until 5. You can come into the office, ask me any questions. You can shoot me an email, but after 5 o'clock, the SGA finance team especially will not be able to assist with anything. FAC meetings will be taking place from March 2nd to March 6th, and you will need to be signed up for an FAC meeting when the initial budget is due. So the deadline to sign up for an FAC meeting is also going to be February 27th at 11:59. Again, they are mandatory in the budget process, so you'll need to be signed up by then. Anyways, final budgets are going to be due on March 10th. That's a Monday, and you'll need to be signed up for your budget hearing at the same time of the final budget being due. So that is March 10th at 11:59. Budget hearings are going to be taking place from March 23rd to March 27th. Fundraising deposits, as I said earlier, are going to be due on the last day of classes, May 12th, 2026. Again, you can do this. I'm not exactly sure of when Aux Services closes. I believe it's like 3 or 4. After that, the office is closed. You cannot submit your fundraise money after that deadline. So I would make sure that you do it before or exactly on the day of. Just be aware and accountable for the fact that they do close a little bit earlier. So moving on to the requirements, you will need to attend the Treasurer's Workshop. Again, you guys are all doing that now. If not, you'll have to attend a makeup session, FAC meetings, budget hearings, and then getting all of your documents submitted on time as well as complete. Lastly, moving into the timelines, purchase request forms need to be submitted 10 business days prior to an event. Check reimbursement will occur 2 weeks following an event. And lastly, budget changes need to happen 10 days prior to an event. If you plan on moving more than $500, again, I would try to do it more than 10 days ahead of time. And lastly, I would say this is really the most important part of the slide. Any late submissions or meeting signups will absolutely not be accepted. If your treasurer could not attend today's workshop, again, there are going to be makeup sessions, and the dates for those will be released soon. I would just advise you all to communicate with me ahead of time in the event that anything happens. Speaking of communication, when it comes to an organization's budget, if there's anything you guys need to reach out to, again, the email is up here. It's the sjtrez@towson.edu email. I'm the only individual who oversees the budget process, so any communication regarding budgeting needs to come through this email and this email only. I understand that a lot of you reach out to Chris and our administrative assistants on the SGA finance team and Susan as well. They can answer, well, specifically for SGA finance, they can answer any financial questions. So anything that's not regarding budgeting, they can answer that absolutely no problem. But anything regarding budgeting needs to come specifically to me. If you guys have any inquiries, need to communicate about the process, have any questions, it specifically needs to come to me. And with that, that's the end of the presentation. So I'm just going to open the floor up to any questions and stop sharing so I can see the chat as well.
Hey, Madison, you did have a couple questions in the chat, so I can read them out for you if you want, or you can scroll.
Okay, go ahead.
So Kayla asks, does the initial budget need to be perfected with all the research information before the final budget hearing? What exactly is the difference between the initial and final hearing regarding what is being presented?
Okay, absolutely. The initial budget does not need to be entirely finalized. If your organization still has other ideas, still has other events, are still waiting back to hear from people on quotes, it does not need to be entirely perfected. Your final budget is what needs to be perfected because after that, there are no additional revisions. There's nothing else you can do to your final budget. The initial budget gives me, as well as the budget committee, time to review your documents, make any advisement, let you know what changes you need to make. So it does not need to be perfected, but you do need to be submitting something for each component of the category. So you will need to submit your Excel spreadsheet, your research document, as well as your visual presentation, even if they are not entirely finished.
Okay, and then another question that came in was from Sophia says, I know budget decisions for spring 2026 are coming out on January 26th. Will that be affected by the school closing?
Absolutely not. I'm still going to get that information out to you guys. I fear that's more of a reason for me to do it, actually.
Okay. There was a couple others here. Will doing this budget form this semester be for fall 2026?
Yes, requesting any money this semester, so going through the budget process this semester, that's going to be for your organization to receive money next semester for fall 26.
All right. Casey asks, for supplemental grants, what is the maximum number we can receive for that event?
It's one per event, and again, the amount you can get depends on what package your organization is.
Someone asked the question, this is PM to me, did our budget get approved? Does the email go only to the president?
The email will go to whoever. So for this one, I am actually going to have to look and involve a TU to make sure that the proper people get the information. As long as your president and treasurer is listed on involved at TU, they will both receive that information. If your treasurer is not listed, then it will just be your president.
All right, next question. You might be caught up with these, but at this point, Raskin asks, doesn't org automatically receive a budget, or will they have to reach level 2 as a new org?
So organizations do not automatically receive a budget. Like I said, there is an entire process that you'll have to go through. And the only organizations who are eligible for SGA funding is Package 3 and Package 4. Package 2 has access to supplemental requests, but they do not receive an actual budget allocation. And as for organizations automatically reaching any level, for Tiger Stripes, you do have to complete minimum requirements to reach those different packages. So if you want to advance in your tiers, you would have to complete minimum requirements, which regards Tiger Stripes.
Just to note about the Tiger Stripes requirements, I'll be doing a breakout session immediately following the break. So that is an indirect plug. If you're asking a question about like levels and things, come to my session. You'll learn a lot more about that. Okay, you actually have a lot of questions coming
I was
in.
about to say there's a lot of questions and not enough time. Y'all might have to email me. I see you have your hand up though, so I'm gonna get to you because you've been up here a minute.
Yeah, so this was like way at the beginning of the session. So I believe the financial in-person meetings, the list I wrote down the days, January 28th, January 30th, February 2nd, and February 6th. So you said we have to be there in person.
In person for
I forget like what I think they were like the in-person financial training things. So are those date options or do I have to be there for those 4 days?
those are separate. So what the budget process and the SJ financial training are two separate events. You'll only have to attend once. Your president and treasurer will only have to attend one of those. And if you went to one last semester, you don't have to go to one this semester. So
Okay.
you pick whichever day you want to attend.
All right, cool. All right. Neat. Okay.
Of course. Oh my God, there's so many questions. The Lord have mercy. Somebody asked, how do you get all of these accounts you're talking about? So when you submit your spreadsheet, when you do everything through the budget process, you don't necessarily get the accounts, if that makes sense. You kind of automatically have them. I'm trying to figure out the best way to word it. But if you're going through the budget process, you'll have access to each account except travel unless you are a package for organization. So when you're submitting your spreadsheet, you would just include the information that applies to each relevant account. So it's not necessarily like you have to earn any of the accounts or anything. As long as you're package 3 or 4, you have access to the 4 accounts that SGA funds. Somebody asked about third-party payments. So the only accepted payment I will say is cash as well as check because the school does not recommend anybody using any third-party financial vendors because again, it also does break financial policy. So cash and check are the only two methods of payment. My availability to schedule in-person appointments. I will say email me specifically. My availability is not posted on the website yet. Obviously, I'm working that out. But again, just go ahead and email the SJ Trez email. If there's something you need to discuss, I can absolutely make time or just make sure I'm in the union or available to hop on a call. Does every organization need to apply for a budget? If your org is not planning to use the funds, do we still need to apply for a budget? If your organization does not plan on using SGA funding at all, you do not need to apply for a budget. The budget process is only for organizations who intend on using SGA funding. Are Tiger Stripes carrying over from fall 2025 to this semester? Now, again, Chris is much more well-versed on this than I am, but I
I
will
can
say
answer
that as
this
long
one.
as you meet the requirements, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, because somebody else asked a similar question. So first off, definitely if you're asking this question, you should come to my Tiger Stripe session. But the short answer is no. Every semester, everybody starts at 0 Tiger points, so nobody's packages will carry over to fall 2026. But anybody can ask for a budget. Any undergraduate group can ask for a budget this semester through the budget process that Madison just outlined. So if you want a budget for fall 2026, do the steps she said. By the end of this semester, so that means by May 12th, which is the last day of classes, you need to have enough points, which is 100 or 150 points, through the Tiger Stripes program to be package 3 or 4 for next semester, and that will lock in your budget for the fall. If that sounded confusing or I went too fast, my next session is going to go in a lot more detail, but that's the short answer.
He said he hit that right on the nose. I'll say that for this semester as well. If your organization requested a budget last semester and you all did not meet the Tiger Stripes requirements to be package 3 or 4, you will not receive that budget. So again, you have to have the 100 or 150 Tiger Stripe points each semester to be eligible for those budgets. So if you don't, well, you pretty much answered that question. Perfect. How do we access funds for our clubs? So all money is held in aux services, but if you need to know where you currently stand, you can email the SJ Finance team, which is literally sjfinance@towson.edu, to receive a trial balance, and they'll tell you how much money you have in your general account. And if you received an SJ budget allocation, they can tell you how much you have in your activity, equipment, printing, and travel as well. He answered this question as well. If the budget meeting was had last semester for spring, when do we hear back? Okay, so same question. All information regarding what organizations receive for the spring semester will go out on the first day of class. Even though it has been switched, the information is still going to be sent out on the 26th. Does food waivers tie into SGA funding? This is separate from the budget process. This is something you would reach out to the SGA finance team for. Could the collaboration fund be used towards travel as well? If you all are approved for the collaboration fund, again, this is separate from the budget process. This will actually go to our appropriations committee. They'll determine where you can use the money and what it can go towards. And the supplemental answer again. What is the process? What is the process for the supplemental process for people who miss spring budget, even with the Tiger Stripes? I'm trying to make sense of this question, but you did say repeat it again. So I'm not sure which part you wanted me to repeat, but specifically supplemental requests are for organizations who are package 2, 3, or 4. This happens outside of the regular budgeting process. So package 2 gets up to 2 supplemental requests. And package 3 and 4, they receive up to 3 supplemental requests. They have to be submitted at least 4 weeks in advance, and this is essentially only emergency funding. So any unforeseen circumstances, additional expenses for projects that are already in an organization's budget, that's the only thing you could use the money for. I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure specifically what you wanted me to answer. So if this doesn't answer it, just go ahead and ping it in the chat. But again, it's limited to a single event. It can include more than one account, but it cannot exceed any account maximums. It must follow financial policy, and it cannot be used for reimbursement. So just let me know if that answered the question. If not, I can provide additional clarification. I think that was all of the questions.
Well, first off, Madison, can you guys please give a round of applause for Madison who put the time together to put together that presentation for you all. She is a student just as you all are, and that was a very well done presentation, Madison. I know some people felt like it went a little bit fast, and you asked like everything's been recorded. So you guys, if you're here at this call, and you signed in, everybody who was here, not just primary contacts groups, will get an email playlist on YouTube of all the trainings. So if you do need to go back and replay any of that, that's definitely an option for you. And I'm going to put Madison's email. This is the Treasury email. So if you do have more questions or things come up, please, you can reach out directly to her regarding anything regarding the SJ budget process. Madison, is there anything else you want to leave folks with?
Nope, I'm just gonna piggyback off of what you said. I do apologize. I am a very quick talker. But again, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to reach out to the SJ Trez email. If you need to set up an in-person appointment, again, reach out to the email, let me know your availability, and I can work something out with you. But again, thank you so much, Chris, for giving me the time to present. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. And that is going to bring us up to our break. So what I'm going to do, so for the next 10 minutes, you guys are basically free to get up, grab a drink, get a snack, take a walk, whatever you need to do. After the break, so at 3:10, you have the option of where you go next. If you stay in this space where you are right now, I will be doing the Tiger Stripe session, which will talk about the incentives and how you go about applying for higher packages so you can receive the budget that Madison was talking about. But there are a whole host of other options that Amelia just greatly put into the chat. So if you want to go to any of these other sessions, these are the links to them. As mentioned before, if you go to the Involved at TU page, there's full descriptions of what each session is going to go over. So make your choices, enjoy your break, and then we're going to see you all back. Well, oh, this is the most important part. After whatever session you go to, if you don't stay in the session here, I should make sure I say this. So if you're not coming to the Tiger Stripe session, make sure after your breakout session at 4 o'clock, come back to this space because we'll do a closing, a wrap up, and then we'll get your assessment like sign out thing so you can be along your way. Okay. Awesome. Enjoy your guys' break. We'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Ethan, you don't need a separate link to sign in. As long as you signed in for the summit, you're good. That's counting for your attendance. Garcia, the only thing you needed to do was make sure you completed the sign-in form for when you got here, and you need to make sure you sign out at the end. So if you didn't sign in, this is the sign-in link. Yes, the breakout rooms will be recorded. So if you can't get to all the ones you want to go to, those will also be provided in the email playlist. So no worries, pick the one that speaks to you most. Amelia's going to make sure she reminds the presenters to record. So hopefully everybody remembers to press record. All right. I'm going to pause this for now. I'm going to be back in about 5 minutes if you guys got a couple questions. Was anybody else having issues with the sign-in link? Let me look. Okay, sorry about that, Kendra. It might have just been, I'm not sure what. If it's not working, try refreshing the page at least once or twice and see if that gets it to load. I just loaded it, worked fine for me. If you've tried a couple of times and you literally still can't get it to work, please just email me the name of your group and say you're having trouble with the sign in. And you can email Amelia too. Okay, sorry, Vinny, I'm reading your question. What is the process for tracking attendance for non-team members at our club events? From my experience, they're unable to scan the QR codes or be written down later without a Towson email. Okay, there is the ability to upload individual. Oh, Kelly's answering it. Never mind. Yep, she did it for me. Thank you, Kelly. I'm gonna take a
Yes,
2 minute
sorry,
break.
I was typing as you started to talk.
Nah,
Like,
it's all
oh
right. I'm gonna take a 2 minute break and grab something to drink. I'll be right
no.
back,
Yes.
guys. So, I want to because I have
Well,
another presentation to do. Kelly, if you got a
I'm
minute,
here. Yes.
okay,
That's what
answer
I was gonna
questions for
say.
people.
Chris is
Thank
gonna
you.
take a break. Chris gonna take a break. I'm here. I'm back. So I will continue to keep an eye on the chat. If you have questions like the really good question that Vinny just asked, I will answer those in the chat during our break time. I'm going to turn my camera off just because I'm finishing my lunch as well. But feel free to ask questions.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Um, so if I wanted to reach level Tiger Stripes 2, uh, are there like anything, I know we're supposed to be reaching that 50 points Tiger thing. Is there like places like we can just go, or is there like specific places that we have to go?
So if you look on Involved at TU, if you remember back to where Chris was showing you what was still left in the campus links section on the homepage of Involved at TU, I think it's the very first link. I'm double checking that I'm telling you the right thing. It still says Tiger Stripes Google Doc. Excuse me, I'm struggling to speak. Tiger Stripes Google Doc. And then if you look and you scroll across the top, it tells you the different ways that you can earn points. And so most of it is by attending events that we have designated as Tiger Point opportunities. It is important to know that any member of your organization can attend these events and represent you. It does not have to fall all on you as the officers. You can assign members to go, you can have members volunteer to go, but each event that's listed is going to tell you how many points you can get. And this is going to be one of the sessions Chris is going to do in the afternoon, specifically the Tiger Stripe session. So if you want to hear a little bit more detail about how it works, definitely check out that session. But you can see, if you look at the Tiger Stripes Google Doc, there are a couple of things that you can just do. So things like hosting an event and posting it on Involved at TU gets you 10 points. If you host a collaborative event with another recognized student organization, 10 points. You can participate in community service. And for community service, you get 1 point per hour per member. And so if a large number of your organization members go and do service together, you can earn a point for each hour that they spend. For that, you do have to record it with the community service form in order to get the points. And then we get into attending the different events that we've designated and how many points you can earn for that. So it's all outlined at the top of the Google Doc. And again, Chris is going to go over some of the things that are coming up for the spring. And you'll also hear more opportunities get added to our calendar all the time. And so it's kind of an ongoing list of opportunities for you to come and earn those points. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, a little bit, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, sorry, I'm back. Um, Nathan, your question, yes, the treasurer's workshop's over, so if they're not going to stay for a breakout, that's completely fine for them to go. How can we access recordings, breakout room sessions? All the recordings are going to be put into one playlist. So, and that link will get emailed out to everybody. So you'll get it via email. It'll be also on our student activities YouTube page. So you can also look for it there once it's posted. It'll probably take us at minimum to the end of next week to post it, especially with the university closing. All right, it is 3:10. I am going to sorry, Jacob. I don't know if Amelia is back. Hold on one second. I'll put the link one more time.
I was just gonna say I'm working on this.
Thanks. All right, Kelly, I'm gonna let you do that because I actually want to get this session started. So if you're staying in this space, you're going to be staying for Tiger Stripes, which I'm going to be going over the Tiger Stripes program as incentives that you can receive as a student organization, an integral part of the budgeting process that Madison talked about. If you have a good understanding of the Tiger Stripes program, I encourage you to check out any of the other breakout sessions, and then return to this space at 4 o'clock. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. You should see a new PowerPoint. Let me pull up the chat. Can you guys see the screen okay? Perfect. I see some nods. Thank you for the yes in the chat. Perfect. Okay. So all right, so this session is going to be about the Tiger Stripes program, and my goal with this session is to give you a comprehensive understanding of the Tiger Stripes programs and the benefits you as a student organization on Towson's campus can receive. So I'm going to go into pretty good detail in this session. I don't know if I'll have specific time for questions, but if you have something as I'm talking and you want to throw it out in the chat, if I see it and I can respond to it, I will try. If it's something that otherwise you want to ask about, hold it till the end after this session during the wrap up. I will be sticking around to answer questions. Okay. So first off, you've heard us talk about Tiger Stripes if you're new to your position a good amount in this session already. But what is the Tiger Stripes program? So the Tiger Stripes program is our incentive program for student organizations. And the way it's set up here at Towson is that there's 4 separate packages. And you heard Madison during her presentations talking about you need to be package 2 or 3 or 4. That's basically all it is, 1, 2, 3, 4. And essentially, as you progress through the packages from 1 to 4, the higher your package number, the more benefits or advantages your club will earn itself to potentially take advantage of. The goal of this program of like, why do we even have the Tiger Stripes program is that we're trying to reward our student organizations for their positive contributions to campus life, and then also to help develop you all as student leaders to hopefully help your organizations result in longer lasting groups. There's 3 primary focuses that we ask specifically are collaborative events that are part of the Tiger Stripes program to fall under, and these are divisional priorities for student affairs, and these are leadership development, fostering community, and well-being. So especially later on, I will draw your attention to how we categorize some of our events. So if you're looking for development in one of these specific areas, you can like potentially personally attend or have members of your group explore these specific topics. Okay, so what are Tiger Points? So we mentioned that there's 4 different packages, but Tiger Points is what is our credit system that you as a student organization earn for attending activities, and they add up over the course of a semester. Every Tiger Point must be earned during this semester to count toward the semester's total. And that's because, and someone asked this question in the main session, every student organization starts at 0 Tiger Points at the beginning of the semester. So everybody's got a clean slate. Opportunities to earn points can always be located on the Tiger Stripes Google document. And you're going to hear me in this presentation refer to the Tiger Stripes Google document a lot. I will show you, I'm going to actually stop sharing in a future slide, and I will actually show it to you because we intentionally are putting all the information in one space so that if you forget the things I'm telling you, if you know how to get to the Google document, you can probably figure out what you need to do to order to get the points. Okay? So that's what the points are. It's just essentially your made-up credit system. All right. So I mentioned that there's 4 packages. Package 1 is our base package for all student organizations. This is essentially the minimum requirements. Like there's no such thing as package 0. So essentially you have to have at least accomplished the minimum requirements for what is called package 1 to stay an active student organization. And I talked about this during the top 10 in the 9th slide, number 9, but these are the things that groups are required to do. Attend the summit each semester, re-register on Involved at TU, have your advisor complete an advisor recommitment form in the fall, and make sure that your president and treasurer attend the student organization financial training once per academic year. So of this list, depending if your group went to the finance training in the fall, the advisor form carried over from last semester, you're already at the summit. The only other thing that you would need to do if you've already been to the financial training is make sure your organization's re-registered on Involved at TU. As long as you've done that, you've qualified to keeping your organization in good standing for the start of the semester. I will show you on a future slide what the exact steps you need to do for completing the re-registration. The deadline for this is March 2nd, but I honestly encourage you to do this as soon as possible because the sooner you turn over, especially the Involved at TU registration, the sooner you make sure your primary contact, your president, is receiving the communications for this semester, if it's not the same person as last semester. Then packages 2, 3, and 4, these are optional. So if you don't care about the other things I'm about to talk about in this presentation, and you're like, we don't need a budget, we don't need this other thing, you can ignore attaining any Tiger points. Package 1 doesn't require any Tiger points at all. Packages 2, 3, and 4, the thresholds to basically go from package 1 to 2 is you need 50 points. By package 3, you need 100, and package 4 is 150. So essentially, it's not package 4 is not like you need 100 from package 3, and it's just 150. That would be the most points you need to reach our top package number, okay? The deadline for Tiger Points is May 12th. That is the last day of classes in spring. So all of your total of what you've done needs to be in by then. And then every package offers different benefits. So depending on what's right for your group, the way it works is right now, and I'll talk about this in the next slide. I'll just put it up so you can see it. Maybe easier. So essentially, the way it works is the benefits your group is getting right now is based on what is your group at the end of the fall semester. So the last day of classes, how many points did you earn? So if you earned 100 points, you'd be package 3. And starting in the spring 2026 semester right now, you would be package 3 as a group. If you didn't do any Tiger points, you would be package 1. All of this is tracked on our Google document, which I'm going to show you in just a second. But essentially for upcoming semester, so for fall 2026, whatever points you earn by the end of this semester, that May 12th date, that is going to be what your package is for next semester. So the question came up during the budgeting session a lot, like, well, what if I'm not package 3 right now? Can I request a budget? Yes, you absolutely can request a budget because you can ask for it even if you're package 1, as long as you're package 3 by the end of this semester. It's what you end at that matters most. Okay, this explains where you can find the Google Doc. You can find it. I'll do it actually this way. I'm going to show you from the very. I'll literally walk you through the from the beginning type thing. So when you're on Involved at TU, this is how you get there. So involved.towson.edu or just search Involved at TU on Google. When you get to this page, you can either come to the Student Org resource page, which we talked a lot about, or there's this quick link because groups use this so much. I'm leaving this here so it's just easy access for you, so it's not an extra click. This will launch the Tiger Stripes Google document. And I have all your pictures. I got to move them real quick. This right now, it says spring 2026 down here on the bottom left. This is this is for this semester, and you can see a lot of stuff is blank right now. Also, shout out to Amelia, who is literally she's on her 3rd day of work, guys. She's already filled in all this stuff. So you're going to be able to find here all of the opportunities for earning Tiger points for the semester. And These green columns, these are the ones. So for example, for groups that already did their re-registration, Amelia has already gone in and marked off if you've submitted it. So if you've done it, so Active Minds, if you're here, X, you did the Involved at TU re-registration. We're in the summit right now. So after the summit, we're going to go through and you'll see X's start to appeal in this column. We haven't gotten through the advisor form, and we will update this as well if your group is good on the compliance training or not. But let me show you last semester's as an example. So this is literally tracking for every student organization is on here for what they completed. And this column here, the pink column, has the package number that they were last semester. So they were package 3, 4, whatever it is. And the red here is where they ended. So this is how many points. So let's use Actors Anonymous as the example. They did 166 points over the semester. So they are package 4 because you need 150 points to get to package 4. This group that did 68, they are package 2 because you need 50 points to get to package 2. And basically all it is all these columns here, these are all the points that they earned by attending or completing these additional activities. If you're questioning, well, how do I complete a specific thing? If you hover your mouse over the top of any specific column, it will give you the instructions of what you need to do to submit to earn that thing. Or if it's an event, it will tell you like, here is the event link, here is when it's hosted, etc. And Amelia is working on updating some of that for this right now. So like right now she just has the dates in here and she's putting things in by date. But eventually this will be fully filled out with all the information. So when you come to this page, you can literally just hover your mouse and see like, okay, here's what I need to do to actually make sure this is completed. So a little bit under construction, but she just started on Tuesday. So we're still getting things up and running. Okay. All right. So yeah, thanks, Amelia. Coming soon. Perfect. I love that. All right, let me reshare. Let's go back to the presentation. But yeah, so if you get confused by anything I go through for the rest of the presentation, that is the most important thing, knowing how to get to the Google Doc, because we put all the information there very intentionally to hopefully make it easy for you. Okay, so I mentioned re-registration quite a lot because this is really a key point of making sure that you guys have access to information specifically that we send out via email. So whoever is the president of your club, they're the ones who should re-register the group. So if you don't have the X in the column that I just showed you on the Tiger Stripes Google document, we do not have your re-registration. If you're the president and you don't remember filling out a registration form, that's not signing up for the involvement fair, that's separate. Re-registering your club, like a re-registration form, these are the steps how to do it. Feel free. I'll give you 5 seconds if you want to take a screenshot of the screen, just so you have it. You will get emailed, or I should say there will be emailed reminders that are going to go out over Involved at TU, but if it's going to your old primary contact, I don't necessarily trust them if they haven't forwarded the past emails to you to get it to you. So make sure that you have this information so you can re-register. As I mentioned, the deadline for this, our initial deadline, is March 2nd. Okay, the student organization financial training, we talked a lot about this in the main session, but that is the other big package 1 requirement. So if you haven't been to that training and you are the president or treasurer of your club, please make sure you're making plans to attend a session this semester. I put the dates up before, so I won't go through those again, but you will get emailed reminders, and they are all located under the event section on Involved at TU. So if you just look for financial training, they all will come up. Okay, minimum requirements. So we talked about this, but essentially, if you don't keep up the requirements that we talked about, so for instance, the coming to the summit, re-registering your club on Involved at TU, those are the things you need to do to remain an active group on campus. If you don't do that, you will basically be marked inactive as a club, which means you would have to restart your club if you wanted to do anything again in the future. So making sure you're upkeeping these minimum requirements to stay package 1, that is really important. We don't have any new groups this semester, but essentially I do know there's a couple because I've seen you and I've talked to you on this call that were new last semester. So if you were a new group last semester, you were automatically inducted as package 1 with all the benefits of being a package 1 group. This semester, now that you're in a new semester, you can begin earning Tiger points to increase your status or package number if you choose to do so. So let's talk about some of the benefits. So, like I've been talking a lot about like, well, here's what you need to do in terms to be an active club, but like, why would you, or what do you get, or why even be a club at Towson at all? So these are benefits that Towson provides all groups. Package one, these are available to all student organizations. And this is a list of them. So room reservations, you can table at the involvement fair. You're officially listed as a club on Involved at TU. You can get an email or WordPress site for your club related to the Towson domains, posting privileges to put up flyers on campus or the TV screens, as we talked about, and the ability to make special fund requests from SGA. These are the base benefits that you get as a club. And I've included in here, so we've talked about this. This is from the top 10, but like room reservations, big point being a club is that you're able to assemble on campus. So if you want to have meetings on campus and not just do things virtually or I guess theoretically off campus, this is available to you. So making sure you get authorized requesters to put in room reservations. We've talked a bit, not in any meaningful way, but about the involvement fair. So the involvement fair is like our key recruitment opportunity for many student organizations. They happen at the beginning of both the fall and spring semester. By being a registered club, you are eligible to request a table. I mentioned that tables are, we have a limited amount of space in our union. So when we run out of tables, we run out. Registration for the involvement fair opened last December. Amelia's been working through. We're at over 100 something groups registered. It caps out at 190. I'm letting you know that now. So if you haven't registered for the involvement fair and that's something your group wants to take advantage of, this is an opportunity to make sure you register. The emails for this, for like how to sign up, has been going to your primary contact on Involved at TU. But if you haven't gotten the email, you can go ahead and complete the registration form. It's on the main page of Involved at TU, where I was showing you that campus link stuff before. Speaking of Involved at TU, that is our number one resource for student orgs, but it's also the way that we track which groups are actively registered clubs on Towson's campus. So we, as in student activities and SGA, utilize this information to contact your group. We advertise this during all of like the potential club fair. I say club fairs, that's the wrong word. Like I have a transfer orientation tomorrow morning. I'm always talking about Involved at TU of like, yeah, go here to literally find out about the clubs and get involved. So just by being a club, you're having your information out there for students to learn about you. Posting privileges on campus. We talked about this during the top 10. So this is a big benefit of being a club, is that you can post things around campus. This I didn't talk about during the top 10, but you also have some different electronic advertising avenues. First, Involved at TU as a resource. A lot of students, this is where they go to find out about events happening. So just by being a registered club, you're required to post your events just as a part of being a group, but this also serves as a way to help advertise yourself. We talked about the digital screens in the union and where you can go to get stuff there. Also, TU Today, so that email that goes out to everybody at the beginning of every day, essentially from the school, events get automatically loaded into that from the master events calendar, which is this events.towson.edu website. So if you put events here, I don't understand the algorithm, so I can't tell you, but it pulls events from that either by, I don't know how, but it picks events out of that through an algorithm that then get put into the email that goes out to everybody on campus. So if you're advertising your events on the master events calendar, that's one extra way that you may get an event featured or show up in an advertisement that gets emailed out to all students. So this is something you could take advantage of. The steps, like I said, I know there's a lot of words on these screens. They're intentional, but when you have the slides, if this is something you want to take advantage of, you can literally go through and follow this step by step to do it. All right, and the last thing, Madison talked about this briefly during her session, so I won't go over into more detail, but essentially SJ does have a number of funds that are available for student organizations and some for just general students to request that don't require anything related to Tiger Stripes, or Tiger Stripes Package 1 is all you need as just being a club to request. Some examples of this are the Just Do It and collaboration funds, but there are others. On the Student Org resource page, there is a link that says like alternative funding options through SGA. There's a whole bunch of different grants and things that are there. So if you're a group that, you're package 1 and you're like, yeah, we want to do some things this semester, but really don't have any money, you can go there and look and see what SGA has available, because there may be things that you're trying to do that would meet one of those grant requirements, and you could get it funded even if you don't advance any packages through Tiger Stripes. Okay. So those are the benefits of being a package one or student organization as a whole. Every group has access to those. But what are the things? So, I'm talking about like all these points and you can earn these points. What are the things that you can earn if you do choose to go and actually achieve some extra points for your group throughout the semester? So packages 2 and 3. So for package 2, and Madison had talked about this, you will get access to 2 supplemental requests from SGA. So these are one-time requests for funding. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the next slide. And then for package 3, if you get to 100 points, you get 3 supplemental requests. And then you can also, that's where you become eligible to request a budget from SGA. So specifically, you get access to 3 of the 4 accounts. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So what is a supplemental request? So a supplemental request, and I think somebody asked this question even, but it is a one-time request for funds for a single event or activity. But that request can cover a lot of different things. So let's say you're having an event, you can ask for, we need food for the event, and we need to pay a DJ because we want to have a party, and we need microphones for our hosts that they're going to be speaking. So we need microphone equipment, and we need flyers to advertise it. So it sounds like a lot of things that you need for this event. You can request all of that with one supplemental request because it's a single specific activity. There's a supplemental request form on the Student Org resources page. It'll redirect you to the SGA site where you can actually fill out the request. They do, as Madison was talking about, you will need to provide research for the cost and stuff for your request. And the biggest thing about this is that it needs to be made 4 weeks in advance. So that is like a long period. So just making sure that you don't, if you have something coming up or later in the semester, it's better to put this in early. There's only a limited amount of money. Like SGA doesn't have infinite money, so they've allocated a certain amount of money to, in particular, the supplemental account. If it runs out of funds, then ultimately, even if you have access to 2 supplementals, if SGA doesn't have the funding in their account, you might not be eligible to get the request because they just can't pay for it. So the sooner you get your requests in, the more likely you can lock in the funds so you know what you have for the events that you're trying to do. And then as a caveat, and also why we broke out our graduate student groups from the undergraduate groups. So just so you understand, SGA's money that it uses to fund student organizations comes exclusively through undergraduate student fees. So you guys, if you're here and you're an undergraduate student, you pay as a part of your fee structure money, and a portion of that goes to the SGA. So only undergraduate student organizations are eligible to use those funds because those are the students that paid for them. If you're a exclusive graduate group and you didn't pay fees to the SGA, you're not eligible to request funding through the SGA. That being said, the GSA, which is the Graduate Student Association, does have a limited amount of funding through the Graduate Student Association. There's a form to request that, but it's much more limited. There's reasons for this, but essentially the GSA, a lot more of your fees for if you're a graduate student go to conference travel. So it's just different priorities. But SGA has a significant amount of funding for undergraduate groups. Okay. And then Madison talked about this, so I'm not going to go into detail about budget, but just so you know, at package 3, you get access to 3 of the 4 accounts. So that is activity, equipment, and advertising. So activity, as Madison talked about, that would be things like the DJ, the food, the things you want to do at your events. Equipment, that's primarily ECS charges, so microphones, whatever you call labor for setup, things of that nature, a sound monitor, that will fall under your equipment account. And then advertising is exactly what it sounds like. That would be like flyers and posters, things of that nature. Package 4, this is where you get access to the 4th account. So that's at 150 Tiger points. You get access to the travel account. So if you are a group that wants to travel to a conference, or you're going to some sort of competition to represent your organization, you're singing in an a cappella championship, whatever, this is where you would want to be package 4 because then you have access to travel account. So this part here, essentially if you want to get a budget, it doesn't come to you automatically. All the things that Madison was talking about, like submitting an initial budget and making sure you go to the FAC meetings, doing a final budget and the budget hearing, you have to do those steps to make sure that you properly request it. You can't just show up in the fall semester, say, hey, I'm package 4. I need travel money for this thing. You have to request it the semester before. So just so you know, even though I'm telling you all of this now, you need to make sure you get your request in. So every group is eligible right now, even if you're package 1. If you want to request a budget for next semester, you can. You just need to make sure that by the end of this semester, you are package 3 or 4, so you get the budget that you request. Okay, and then package 4 has some additional benefits. So this is our highest package. So it comes with all the package 1 benefits, but then you also get access to all 4 accounts through the budgeting process, 3 supplementals, which we've talked about, which are part of package 3. But then you also are given $250 that SGA will set aside for recruitment for food for your meetings that you can use one time per year. You can get up to $150 for a banner that you can use once per year. That's through the same graphic design form I showed you for the TVs. They're the same people that can make a banner for you. And then you'll also get option to place room reservations for the upcoming year earlier than other orgs. So this is a big selling point. Like if you're a group that has very specific needs for meeting space, if you get your stuff, if you hit package 4, you'll get an earlier sign up for your group. So these slides go into more details about the things I just kind of mentioned. So this is just in case you need it. I'm putting it up on the screen so it goes into the recording. Does anybody have any general questions about any of the benefits? Sorry, I'm failing at the chat. I didn't scroll. Oh, there is no questions, at least not right now. Okay, wait, unless I messed up. Okay, no, we're good. Okay, if you do have questions, hold on for just a sec. So let's talk about earning Tiger points. So I mentioned a lot about like, here's what you can get, but now how do you actually get the points you need to reach those point thresholds? So I talked about this at the beginning, but all the point opportunities will be located on the Tiger Stripes Google Doc. We don't have secret things. If something's not on there, it's because we forgot to add it. It's an error. Everything will be here. So as long as you know how to get to the Google Doc, you can see everything in one place. But let's talk about a couple of examples of things that we keep on there every year so you can get a sense of like, here are some ways we can start earning some points. So the first is, and this has got to be the easiest way to earn 10 points, is hosting an event. Literally any event that is open to all students it can be on campus or virtual, doesn't matter, but it's just something that has to be open to everybody. But it has to be what we classify as an event. So what is not an event? Things like if you're just having your normal weekly meeting, if you're doing tryouts for your organization, if you're just tabling promoting your club, or you're doing a fundraiser, like these we do not classify as events. But let's use the example of a group meeting. If you're bringing in a guest speaker, right, and you advertise it as guest speaker, come learn about whatever space, making things up for the astronomy club, right? We're doing this guest speaker from NASA. That can be an event. So it is about how you market it. But if you market it as an event, then it will count for these 10 points. The most important thing, it has to be posted on Involved It TU in order to receive credit. The steps for how to create an event are here on the slide. So in terms of this, it's basically like almost every group does at least one event a year, but it's about making sure that you properly word it if that's the case. So if you only have group meetings generally, but you do have things that are open to other people outside your group to come to, as long as it's presented in a way that is as an event that people can see and say, oh, I'm interested in space, I'd love to learn about that, even if I'm not an astronomy major, they can come out to your event. The event must be posted prior to May 12th, which is the last day of classes, and you guys are not allowed to host events during finals. So essentially, it has to happen before May 12th. All right, the second thing is hosting a collaborative event with another org. So if you did, let's use that same example. You're going to bring a guest speaker for NASA, but you're also going to bring a second speaker that's going to talk about, I don't know, something related to the oceans, and you're gonna work with the Biology Honor Society. That would be 2 groups working together on a single event. As long as the event is open to all students, once again, that will count as an event, and it has to be hosted with an organization whose purpose is different from your group. So, for example, the Biology Club is different than the Astronomy Club. Totally cool for them to work together. To get credit for this, you need to fill out the collaboration form. Now, if you went to the Google Doc and you hovered over this column, it's going to tell you to go to the Student Org Resources page where you'll see the collaboration form for 2026. You click that, you fill out the form, and you'll get your 10-point credit. The thing about this one, right? If you're doing this event that's open to everybody and you post it on Involved It to You, and then you fill out the form, you can get the 10 points for hosting an event plus another 10 because it's a collaborative event. So that would actually be 20 points in this case. You'll notice it says 10 points maximum. It means you can only get these points once. So you can do one event. You can't just say, I'm going to collaborate with everybody and earn 100 points. You can do this one time, but it's a 10 points for your group. Form needs to be in prior to May 12th. This form, the collaboration form, you actually can do after the event happens. So for posting the event, you need to post it before the event. This form you can put in after the event because it asks you a couple questions of like how you work together and how the event went. Okay. All right, another way you can earn points is community service. And the way we give you guys points for this is you're eligible to earn 1 Tiger Point for every hour of service that a member does. There's not a set maximum that you can do for this. All right, but in terms of service, I want to start with what counts as service. So, and I think there is sometimes students don't understand like what will classify as a service or what we're using as our definition for if it will count. So community service is completed at a 501c3. Don't worry about all the numbers and letters, but essentially is completed at a nonprofit organization or serves a community or skill in need. The service is completed without receiving payment or remuneration for services completed. So if they're paying your group to come in and do something, that won't count for service. Additionally, you'll notice like the point is you actively have to go and do something. So I think and I'll talk about this in the next 2 slides from now. A lot of people get confused where they'll say, hey, I donated a bunch of canned goods to the Maryland Food Bank. How much service do I get for the cans that I donated? How many hours is that worth? A donation is not you actively serving. That is a donation. That will count, but it counts in a different way. So that a donation, if you're donating money or goods, we consider that philanthropy. Service is where you actually go and do something. So if you went to the Maryland Food Bank and you helped stock the shelves and put the cans in their proper locations so it was organized, that would be considered service. So hopefully that helps with some of the distinction. But how does it work? So let's use this as the example. If you had 10 members go to a service project, so let's use the Maryland Food Bank as the example. 10 people went for 5 hours on a Saturday. You would have 10 people by 5 hours each would be 50 Tiger Points. Service hours can't be double counted for more than one organization. So what this means is if you're in like 3 different clubs, you can't say I went to the Maryland Food Bank for 5 hours and assigned 5 hours to every club. If you're working with like 2 different groups that you're a part of and doing a project together, you could theoretically split it half and half, but you can't like multiply out the time. If you need help finding service opportunities, the Office of Civic Engagement does have some forms and some information on their website here that you can go to. Goldie asked the question, would we have to fill out a travel waiver for community service as a club? If you're traveling off campus, yes. That great question. But yeah, if you're doing it as a trip off campus, it's a club activity, right? Like you're doing it as a group. Yes, you would need to do it. You would need to fill out a travel waiver. There are service opportunities that do come up on campus, though. There's opportunities sometimes in the Glen or different organizations will host things that would classify as service. So, depending on what you're trying to do, you don't always need it, but if you're leaving campus, then yes, you do need to make sure you're doing waivers for that. That is an insightful question. Okay, how do you actually get credit, though? So let's say you went off, you did the Maryland Food Bank thing. How do we actually know that you did it, right? Like you have to tell us so that we can give you credit. And the way you log your service hours is through Involved It to You. There's a service hour section where you can add service hours. I'm not going to go over this in detail because this is explained both at the top of the Google Doc. If there's people have questions about this, you're just really dying to know where to see it, at the end of the summit, Kelly's going to have an Involved at TU small like gathering where you can ask her and she can walk you through like how you would add service hours. But essentially, there's a form that you're going to fill out essentially to add the service hours. The important thing to know about it is you need to put the hours in for every student that went. You can't just say, all right, we went, there was 6 of us that, or 4 of us went for 6 hours each, right? And put that in as one person did 24 hours. You need to put in 4 submissions and each person did 6 hours. I hope that makes sense. So basically, if you have 10 people that go, you should have 10 names and then the time that each person did. What's very important, so our student organization ambassadors and Amelia help manage our service approvals. So when you're submitting your requests, you need to be as descriptive as humanly possible so that we understand what you're actually saying that you did. I know in your mind, you're like, yeah, we did this. And it might make sense to you, but if you don't provide that to us, we can't grant you credit because we don't understand like what your group did. So a couple things that are important. First, you do need to include what is called a verification contact. This should be the person from the service site that you're working with. So if you're working with the Maryland Food Bank, who did you call to organize coming to do the service? Put down their email address. It cannot be a member of your club. You can't verify your own service. This is if we wanted to call somebody to say, hey, did the astronomy club actually come to do this service? They would be able to say, oh yeah, they came on the 12th. They brought 10 members. Like, we were glad to have them. Okay. So examples of what not to submit. So if you wrote, for example, service in the park, food pantry, we're going to see that. We're going to say, what did you do in the park? Which park did you go to? What were you doing at the food pantry? What is the name of the food pantry? That does not give us enough information for us to verify that what your group did would classify as service. So an example that would be fine would be helping stock shelves and sorting food items at the Maryland Food Bank. Okay, it tells us what was the service site, where you went, and what you actually did, and how it would classify as service. Okay, yes, we can see this serves a community or a need. It's happening at a nonprofit, etc. This would classify as service. When in doubt, the more descriptive, the better. And the things we really want you to make sure you're doing is listing who is the community partner that you went to, the location, and the location that you completed your survey. Like, make sure that's in there, and then like what you actually did is explained. The deadline, and you're going to hear this date a lot, is May 12th. It's the last day of classes. All your submissions need to be in for that by then. I strongly encourage you not to wait till like May 11th to put in like things you did back in March. The sooner you put them in, the sooner that the SOAs and Amelia can like verify that these happened, and then we don't have to like, you're not putting it on the 11th, then you get an email back like, hey, this thing you submitted doesn't classify as service, and now you were expecting to get 50 Tiger points and you got 0 and you missed getting your budget, right? Like, you don't want to do that to yourself. Okay, philanthropic donations. I mentioned this is where sometimes students will get confused and they'll submit the wrong thing. So you can also earn points or Tiger points for your club through donations. It's instead of logging it as service, though, there is a form that is on the student org resource page where you can then submit for philanthropy. What counts as philanthropy? This is the definition we use: the desire to promote the welfare of others, expressed especially by the generous donation of money or gifts in kinds to good causes, donated to a nonprofit, TU Foundation, public school, religious organization, or a community in need. And the way it basically works is for every $20 you donate, or I say $20 or the whatever you call it, the money equivalent of the items you donate is worth 1 Tiger point. So if you donate $100, that would be worth 5 Tiger points. The one thing I want you to note is as a part of submitting the form, they're going to ask you for a receipt or a letter from the charity that you donated to. Charities are used to supplying this information for tax purposes. So if you say, hey, I just need a copy of the donation, or can you verify an estimated amount of the value of the goods we donated, they should be able to supply you. Usually they may even have like a very official form, but even if it's just an email like and that says like, hey, we want to thank you for your donation to the Maryland Food Bank of $150 worth of canned items. Thank you. We appreciate it, etc. You can just upload that and that will count. Okay. All right. So those are some examples of some of the standard things that you could do. But what a lot of groups will participate in is what are called our Tiger Stripes events. And you will get notifications, especially if you're the primary contact for your group on Involved at TU. Very often, I mentioned this idea of leadership, well-being, and community development. So this is where groups earn the vast majority of their points for a lot of them. And you can pick different activities that are of interest to you or the members of your group that are going to participate. And we strongly encourage you to have your members not be like, hey, I need to earn 100 points. I have to go to 10 different events to earn 10 points each, and that's going to get me. The point of this program is so that your group is getting to be enhanced and experience these different opportunities. So when stuff comes up, share it with your executive board, share it with your general members, make a plan, especially for a lot of them, you can get extra points if you send like an additional member. So, when you're looking at what's available, pick things that are going to be of interest to your members. I'm going to mention they will all be located on a digital calendar. So there's going to be the Google Doc, and that will have everything. But we'll also have a calendar that in Amelia's world, it's coming soon. So we are going to have that as well. I see that Michaela asks, can you link the event calendar if it's open? I will stop sharing for a second. So the thing is, we have not created the calendar for this semester, Michaela. So I'm going to show you the one from last semester, just so for those that haven't seen it before, they can get an idea. But this will be uploaded to, I'll zoom in a bit, to the Involved at TU student work resource page. So from here, you can see they are categorized by color. So sense of belonging, well-being, and leadership. Depending what you're looking for, there's different options. And there's events that are listed, there's two main types. It's either flow or standard. Flow means you don't have to come for the whole time. You can just stop by, and they use a QR code check in. So you can just literally scan the QR code, check it out, and that's going to earn you your points for the group. So, and then a standard event, the expectation is you show up at the beginning. So what the start time for this is 4 o'clock, and it goes till 5 o'clock. So you would be there the whole time. And I'm going to click this. So the idea is the calendar is supposed to, it should work, but the event is over. These are events from last semester, but you should be able to click the link here. We'll actually see, and it'll go to the event page where you can actually learn more information about the event. Now, the one I just picked was this one that has a blue star that says or diamond that says you must RSVP. So this talks about like an RSVP is required to attend. You can't see it now, but there was an RSVP button here where you could click to RSVP for it. Some of the events, they have limited capacity because of the room they're in. So, make sure that if it says you need to RSVP and you want to go to it, go into that event early and make sure you RSVP to basically reserve your slot. There's going to be a number this semester that will have some options for let me put it this way. There's multiple date options because the number of people that can go to any specific one is limited. So if you really want to go to like one of them is going to be like a stress circle group, they're going to have multiple date options where I think they cap out at about 14. So it's like, hey, I really want to go to this. They're offering multiple sessions that you can go to. Okay. All right. So that is about how you earn points. I'm going to skip questions to just wrap up so we can make sure we end you guys on time. So what package is right for your organization? So I've gone through with you in this presentation, like the different benefits that you can earn. So what you should do as a club is talk with your executive board and make a plan. Do you want a budget for next semester? Does your group need a budget? Would a supplemental be beneficial to your group? These are the types of questions that you can ask each other to say, okay, let's look at the benefits we can get and what would make sense for us and what would be beneficial. What you shouldn't do, it says at the very end here, is do not wait till the end of the semester to start discussing it. Have it early so that you can develop a plan. This is especially important if you decide you want to be package 3 or 4. You don't want to get to late April and say, oh my gosh, we need 150 Tiger points because we requested a travel budget and now we have like 2 weeks to figure it out and everybody's slammed because it's finals, right? You don't want to put yourself in that situation. So if you have this conversation in the beginning of the semester, then you can work throughout the semester to try to achieve those goals. I'll also mention here, I don't personally believe that like every group should shoot for package 4. Shoot for the thing that makes sense for your group. Honestly, if you want to go to Tiger Point things just because they sound interesting, etc., or you think for your own personal development, awesome, do it. But ultimately, it should be about like, you shouldn't be adding stress to your group just because package 4 groups aren't better than package 1 groups. It's nothing like that. They're in terms of what you want to do as an organization, have the conversation about what makes sense. Don't feel like everybody group needs to try to aim for specifically the highest package. That's not the intention of this program. Okay, tracking, we mentioned this, but specifically the Google document is what we use. That is a public document that you can look at any time. And that is intentional so that if we make mistakes, and we are human, so if me or Amelia accidentally goes in there and we put an X in the wrong column, or you think we made a mistake, let us know. We're human, so give us a little bit of grace. But also, if, for example, the summit is happening today, nobody has an X yet, right? Like, it hasn't even ended. So there's no way that that's going to be updated immediately. But if by next week you look and it's Thursday and everybody else has got an X and you don't have an X for yourself, that would be a great time to shoot us an email and say, hey, I was definitely at the summit and I think you might have made a mistake because we should have gotten credit for it, right? Those types of things you should definitely tell us. I would say definitely give us a little bit of time, especially with some of the Tiger Point events. We have to get like the attendance things sometimes sorted with the events themselves. But generally speaking, just let us know if something's not there. For spring 2026, these are some of the important dates. So the student group summit is today and the treasure workshop, you got those checked off. The advisor forum was done last fall, so you should be good on that unless your advisor has changed. Oh my gosh, this is a typo. Volunteer registration, sorry, this is not October 1st. This is March 2nd. Sorry, guys. Man, I thought I got through this whole thing without a single typo. It is March 2nd is the deadline. Intentionally, we try to make it 2 specific deadlines, so if you can't remember everything else, there's only 2 days you have to worry about. So, and then the last thing here is president and treasurer attending the student org financial training. There's multiple dates and options for those in the first 2 weeks of classes. So make sure you make a plan for that if your group needs to do that. And then everything else, all the point things happen on May 12th. So what happens on May 12th? So May 12th is the deadline, and this is where we will calculate your points. And there is no magic or secret things that happen. Honestly, you can probably go on May 11th and look for yourself, and you can figure out what package you're going to be next semester. We literally just add up. It's literally a sum equation that adds up the columns on the Google Doc. So you can add it up for yourself and say, oh my gosh, we don't have our points in here. Like we're not at the point level we should have been. What happened? That it is important that you contact us if something is wrong. If you do not contact us before the May 12th deadline and say, hey, our points are incorrect, we should have had this taken care of, you're going to need to go through a judicial appeal in the following semester, which is an extra step. It's not guaranteed to be granted if it was your fault, etc. You don't want to put yourself through that. But if you email us before the May 12th deadline, we'll work with you to look into the situation and make sure that you got all the points that you did complete that semester. I will say you will get significant numbers of reminders as this deadline is approaching to go in and check the Google Doc. But there's 200 plus organizations you saw how many events are on that Google Doc. So like we can't possibly know if one thing was missed from a specific group. So if something's wrong with your personal status, you do need to tell us so that we can make sure we give you credit. Okay. And then last part here is starting in fall 2026, you're going to then be eligible for any benefits that you got this semester. So if you completed your 100 Tiger points by May 12th, you get your package 3 at the end of this semester. That means next semester starting out, if you requested a budget, All of those things will be ready for you when you start here in the fall. If you need help, so like Chris, everything you said was really confusing. None of it made sense. You can definitely reach out to me or Amelia to ask questions. Amelia's a little new, so give her a little bit of time. But we are both going to be available to you all to help you, whether it's navigating the Tiger Stripes program itself, or if you're trying to like develop a plan for your club of like, look, we really want to get to 100 points, but I'm concerned like we have a small number of members and people aren't that actively engaged. I'm happy to give you some coaching about like strategies you can use to get to your goals. So if you need help, please reach out. Our emails are here. But it's last point on this is it's significantly harder to achieve your goal if you wait till the week before the deadline to start. So the sooner you start, the better for that. Okay. All right. And we don't have any time for questions because we're basically at 4 o'clock and we're going to start our wrap up now. Hold on, we have one question in chat. I will answer this. Is re-registration required if I registered the club in December 2025? Yes, every group is required to do re-registration. I know if even if it was like you're a new group that started late, is a requirement for everybody, but it should be pretty quick for you because you just updated the information literally last month. So just fill it out so we make sure we have it. Okay. I'm going to ask a favor if in chat. If you are here from the ECS breakout, can you type ECS in the chat? Okay, so that one sounds like it let out. If you're here from the restorative practices breakout, can you type restorative practices? Or RP will be fine if not. Okay, I see some RPs coming in. And if you're from accessibility and belonging, you could just type AB. See RPs, thank you guys. Okay, looks like we're still missing our accessibility and belonging folks, so we'll give them just another minute. How's everybody's day been? What did you guys think, especially if you were new to the summit? Give us your thoughts and impressions. You're going to get to fill this out on the eval soon, but did you learn anything new? A lot of info. All right. That it is, Brian. You're very right about that. Okay, cool. Helpful for New York's. Glad to hear that, Parker. David, I know we have so much we want to try to teach you guys, and we try to make it as concise as possible, but understand that it can feel a little overwhelming. That's also why we do have the recordings and there's so much information on the slides so that you can go back and refer to the information. All right. Accessibility and belonging folks, are you here? If you're here from accessibility and belonging breakout, give me an A, B in the chat. Oh, perfect. Natalie coming in strong with the first answer. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Okay, so first of all, congratulations. I know it was a lot of information, and I do want to commend you guys for your attention and all the questions that I've seen come through the chat throughout this throughout the presentation. As soon as I share my screen, we're gonna go and do our closeout here. Just a couple of reminders as we end today. So today we spent time, especially in the beginning of the main session, going over some of the org changes, specifically the first 4 bullets on this thing about the required officer positions, the financial trainings, maintaining your accurate roster on involved at TU, and attendance tracking for your student org. The stuff we didn't talk about in detail because we didn't get to go into the bonus round. Ran out of time, but I had some fun stuff for that. We did talk about contract process in the top 10, but just making sure that you know when you're submitting a contract, you need to make sure that you submit a purchase request for your contract 10 business days prior to it happening. So whenever you're trying to do it, at least 10, but I'd recommend doing it as soon as possible. But the purchase request form is the key thing to know about that. Things was mentioned during Madison's presentation, but no ticketing or fundraising with SGA funds. So this means if you're hosting any event that SGA is funding, so if you're getting SGA money for an event, you cannot charge anybody for attending that event. So just know that if you're trying to use SGA money, the event needs to be free. And the last thing, we didn't talk about it in detail, partially because I will mention one of the things we highlighted at the beginning of the fall semester was overstaying room reservations and building closing procedures. So when when your time is up for your reservation, you need to be out of the space. And this is especially important in the instances where the building is trying to close. We had very, very few instances of any reports of problems with this in the fall. So you guys have done a fantastic job on this. But if you're a new officer of your club, it is important for you to know that anytime have a reservation, look at the reservation from Event and Conference Services and note the end time. So if it says you have to be out of the space by 9:30, that means at 9:20 or whatever it is, you should be wrapping up. Say, hey guys, grab your practice gear. We're starting to close things down. So you're out of the room by 9:30 or whenever your ending is. Okay. Those are the things we talked about in the beginning. We also reviewed the student org top 10. These were just done very quickly, but we talked about room reservations, contracts, so I mentioned before, the posting policy and where you can find resources on the student org resource page, food waivers and travel waivers also on the student org resource page, the hazing policy we mentioned, reporting, so both hate bias and the SOS form, information about student org finances and the financial training, and then a few things about remaining an active student organization, most notably that you do need to make sure you re-register your club. So if you haven't done that yet, you will get emailed reminders from both me and Amelia, but just make sure that you re-register on Involved at TU. And we talked about the new Involved at TU resource page. I talked about this briefly during the My Tiger Stripe session. I'm letting you know this now that I will put the Tiger Stripes digital calendar both on the Involved at TU resource page and in the campus link section, since I know a lot of groups use this resource. The one for this semester of all the activities is not created yet. We are still working it. We just approved the events literally at the end of last week. So apologies, we're a little bit behind just with the way this semester starting. But our goal is to get this out to you guys, hopefully, depending when school actually opens. I'm hoping for the end of next week, if not, hopefully by the involvement fair. But this will give you the list of all the activities that are going to happen throughout the semester. The first events that are happening this semester will not take place until the week of February 10th. So these are the first 4 Tiger Point events. So you're not missing anything in the first 2 weeks of classes. We're kind of intentional about that, of like not stressing to get you guys things super quick. So you can the events for these are posted on Involved at TU. So if you're like, I'm really interested and I want to go to one of these, you will get emailed reminders. Leona will make sure she puts these in the newsletter that's going to come out. So you will get reminders about these events. But just so you know, the calendar is not out yet, but the first events are going to start taking place starting February 10th. I will shout out the 4th annual Neurodiversity Resource Fair because myself and the SOAs are going to be there for one of the tables. So if you want to come hang out with us, you can come check us out. All right, important dates for this semester. So if you didn't come to the Tiger Stripe session, you can mark these on your calendar. March 2nd is the initial deadline for Tiger Stripes. So that is really the big thing is Involved at TU re-registration, and that's out on Involved at TU. And the final Tiger Stripes deadline for this semester is May 12th. So if you want to mark those down, you will get many, many, many email reminders about these as they approach them. This slide, if you want to screenshot it just so you have it, you will get it via email eventually, but just so you know, these are the important dates for the spring semester for student organizations. So our financial training dates, they're all right there. So you can pick which one if you need to go to one of those as a president or treasurer, mark those down. The involvement fair is Wednesday, February 4th from 4 to 6. That's in the Union 3rd floor. I mentioned that we are running there's 190 spaces roughly that are available. We're over 100 and probably 10 something requests already from groups. So, and I know that number is going to climb quickly. The deadline to request a table, the very last deadline would be a week from today, Thursday, the 29th. So get your request in for a table if you want to be at the involvement fair. Our Tiger Org Tuesdays for the semester, they're all 11:30 to 1:30 on the second floor of the Union. We will email out registrations to these. We're going to get through the fair first because I know everybody's going to be signed for the involvement fair. So Tiger Org Tuesday, you can expect the first one's on February 17th. You'll get an email from that about signups for that shortly after the involvement fair. And Madison went over the budgeting dates, but I just put a couple of these on here for you. So the February 27th as the initial budget's due date, and final budget's due date is March 9th. And then also for SGA fundraising requirements, the last day of class is May 12th. So if you do need to raise money for budget reasons, because you're requesting budget, that would be the deadline to get stuff in. Raskin, hold that question until the end. I will talk to you about the re-registration. / Kelly can give me one more slide and then we'll get to that. So lastly, remember we're here to help. So specifically, I'm including mine, Kelly, and Amelia's email addresses on here. I feel like you guys get a lot of emails from us anyway, so you probably will have them. But if you want to mark them down in case you do have questions or need to contact us for any reason, like part of, we do these jobs because we really value what you guys as student orgs bring to the college experience. Like a lot of things that we could be doing with our lives, but honestly, we're really invested in seeing you guys succeed. And I get excited every year about the stuff your groups do. So if you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Obviously, you can please use your advisors as well. But if there's something you're struggling with process-wise or something's come up in your group and you're having an issue, don't hesitate to let us know. Like we deal with anything and anything under the sun for you guys, okay? Okay, this is what I was saying, hold on for. So post-summit. So we're about to end. There's one more slide after this one. But what me and Kelly had talked about in doing for you all is we're going to do, if you have questions. So we went through a lot of information and some of you had very specific questions that you're like, hey, I want to learn how to do this, or I don't know how to do this, or this specific situation is affecting my group. So we're going to offer it two fashions. So Kelly, if you have questions related to anything on Involved at TU, so like, I don't know how to re-register my club, which is a recent question that came in. You can go into a breakout session. Kelly's gonna, I'll tell you when, but you'll be able to just type Involved at TU. I'll drop you in a breakout session and you can talk to her. And she'll literally walk you through virtually on like how to do it. If you have any other general question, anything student org related, I'm gonna take questions in this main session room. So I'm happy to answer questions for you. Lastly, before I put up the next slide, Amelia, just put the attendance link one more time. If you did not sign in, please do make sure you get your name onto that sign-in thing so that you make sure you get the credit for that. So Amelia did that. All right, and then the last slide. This is your sign out, and this is important. I will tell you, it includes a quiz. Let's see if you learned anything throughout this summit. So there's a QR code there, or Amelia put the assessment link in the chat for you. So feel free to click the link, whichever is easiest for you. Once you complete the assessment, if you do not have any questions, you are free to go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention. If you do have questions, like I said, I'm going to hang out here. You can feel free to throw them out. And if after the assessment you have questions about Involved at TU and you want Involved at TU walkthrough, just type Involved at TU walkthrough, and then we'll put you in a breakout with Kelly. Okay? All right. I'm going to drop the screen. So if you didn't get the assessment link, we can repost it in the chat for you if you need it. Otherwise, guys, I guess enjoy your snow days because they're already coming. We'll see you once campus opens. I don't know if that's Wednesday. There is a financial training that Wednesday. If for some reason the university is closing that day, we'll follow up with more information about if that session's being rescheduled or what the plan is, okay? And yeah, it's really great to see you. Thank you guys so much. We're excited. We'll see you at the involvement fair for sure. So, hopefully, I know a lot of you guys will be there. So definitely say hi at the registration table, especially say hi to Amelia because she's brand new. So, when you come by, make sure you stop by and say hey. And with that, guys, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. If you guys have questions at this point, I'm opening up the floor. You can either throw them into chat, raise your hand if you want to speak it into existence. And if you want to go to an Involved at TU breakout session to see re-registration, community service hours, or anything of that nature, just type something in chat so that we can set you up with a breakout. Amelia, I didn't ask you this question. Do you know how to set up breakout rooms for Zoom?
I feel like I could figure it out.
Okay. Just thinking if I'm taking any questions, then okay,
Doesn't look like we've got any takers yet, so we might be okay.
Okay. Let me stop the recording. We don't need to